Section 11 of Prison Memoirs of an Anarchist by Alexander Berkman. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recording by Kwame Genov, youtube.com/c/KWAMEGENOVV. A Ray of Light. I yearn for companionship. Even the mere sight of a human form is a relief. Every morning, after breakfast, I eagerly listen for the familiar swish-swash on the flagstones of the hallway. It is the old rangeman sweeping up. The sensitive mouth puckered up in an inaudible whistle, the one-armed prisoner swings the broom with his left, the top of the handle pressed under the armpit. "Hello, Alec. How are you feeling today?" He stands opposite my cell, at the further end of the wall, the broom suspended in mid-stroke. I catch an occasional glance of the kind blue eyes, while his head is in constant motion, turning to right and left, alert for the approach of a guard. "How are you, Alec?" "Oh, nothing extra." "I know how it is, Alec. I've been through the mill. Keep up your nerve. You'll be all right, old boy. You're young yet." "Old enough to die," I say bitterly. "Shh! Don't speak so loud. The screw's got long ears." "The screw?" A wild hope trembles in my heart. The screw. The puzzling expression in the mysterious note. Perhaps this man wrote it. In anxious expectancy, I watch the rangeman. His back turned toward me, head bent, he hurriedly plies the broom with the quick, short stroke of the one-armed sweeper. "Shh," he cautions, without turning, as he crosses the line of my cell. I listen intently. Not a sound, save the regular swish-swash of the broom. But the more practiced ear of the old prisoner did not err. A long shadow falls across the hall. The tall guard of the malicious eyes stands at my door. "What are you prying out for?" he demands. "I am not prying." "Don't you contradict me. Stand back on your hole there. Don't you be leaning on the door, d'ye hear?" Down the hall the guard shouts. "Hey, you, cripple! Talking there, wasn't you?" "No, sir." "Don't you dare lie to me. You was." "Swear to God I wasn't." "Well, I'll ever catch you talking to that son of a bitch, I'll fix ya." The scratching of the broom has ceased. The rangeman is dusting the doors. The even strokes of the cat-o'-nine tails sound nearer. Again the man stops at my door, his head turning right and left, the while he diligently plies the duster. "Alec," he whispers, "be careful of that screw. He's a bitch. See him jump on me?" "What would he do to you if he saw you talking to me?" "Throw me in the hole, the dungeon, you know. I'd lose my job, too." "Then better don't talk to me." "Oh, I ain't scared of him. He can't catch me, not he. He didn't see me talking, just bluffed. Can't bluff me, though." "But be careful." "It's all right. He's gone out in the yard now. He has no biz in the block anyhow, 'cept at feeding time. He's just looking for trouble. Mean skunk he is, that cornbread Tom." "Who?" "That screw, fellings. We call him Cornbread Tom, because he swipes our corn dodger." "What's corn dodger?" "Ha ha! Tuesdays and Saturdays we gets a chunk of cornbread for breakfast. It ain't much, but better'n stale punk. Know what punk is? Not long on lingo, are ya? Punk's bread, and then some kids is punk." He chuckles merrily, as at some successful bon mot. Suddenly, he pricks up his ears, and with a quick gesture of warning, tiptoes away from the cell. In a few minutes he returns, whispering, "All okay, road's clear. Tom's been called to the shop. Won't be back till dinner, thank the Lord. Only the cap is on the block, old man Mitchell, in charge of this wing. North block it's called." "The women are in the south block?" "Nope, the girls got a special building. South block's the new cell house, just finished. Crowded already and fresh fish coming every day. Court's busy in Pittsburgh all right. Know anyone here?" "No." "Well, get acquainted, Alec. It'll give you an interest. Guess that's what you need. I know how you feel, boy. Thought I'd die when I landed here. Awful dump. A guy advised me to take an interest to make friends. I thought he was kidding me, but he was on the level all right. Get acquainted, Alec. You'll go bugs if you don't. Must vamoose now. See you later. My name's Wingy." "Wingy?" "That's what they call me here. I'm an old soldier. Was at Bull Run. Run so damn fast I lost my right wing. Ha ha ha. Slong." Eagerly, I look forward to the stolen talks with Wingy. They are the sole break in the monotony of my life. But days pass without the exchange of a word. Silently, the one-armed prisoner walks by, apparently oblivious of my existence, while with beating heart I peer between the bars for a cheering sign of recognition. Only the quick wink of his eye reassures me of his interest and gives warning of the spying guard. By degrees, the ingenuity of Winky affords us more frequent snatches of conversation, and I gather valuable information about the prison. The inmates sympathize with me, Winky says. They know I'm on the level. I'm sure to find friends, but I must be careful of the stool pigeons who report everything to the officers. Winky is familiar with the history of every keeper. Most of them are rotten, he assures me. Especially the captain of the night watch is fierce and an ex-fly. Only 3 screws are on night duty in each block, but there are a few hundred overseers to run the dub during the day. Winky promises to be my friend and to furnish more pointers been by. End of section 11. Section 12 of Prison Memoirs of an Anarchist by Alexander Berkman. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recording by Kwame Genov, youtube.com/c/KWAMEGENOVV. The Shop. Section 1. I stand in line with a dozen prisoners in the anteroom of the deputy's office. Humiliation overcomes me as my eye falls, for the first time in the full light of day, upon my striped clothes. I am degraded to a beast. My first impression of a prisoner in stripes is painfully vivid. He resembled a dangerous brute. Somehow, the idea is associated in my mind with a wild tigress, and I, too, must now look like that. The door of the rotunda swings open, admitting the tall, lank figure of the deputy warden. Hands up! The deputy slowly passes along the line, examining a hand here and there. He separates the men into groups. Then, pointing to the one in which I am included, he says in his feminine accents, "None crippled. Officers, take them, to number 7. Turn them over to Mr. Hood's. Fall in. Forward, march." My resentment at the cattle-like treatment is merged into eager expectation. At last I am assigned to work. I speculate on the character of number 7 and on the possibilities of escape from there. Flanked by guards, we cross the prison yard in close lockstep. The sentinels on the wall, their rifles resting loosely on crooked arm, face the striped line winding snake-like through the open space. The yard is spacious and clean, the lawn well kept and inviting. The first breath of fresh air in 2 weeks violently stimulates my longing for liberty. Perhaps the shop will offer an opportunity to escape. The thought quickens my observation. Bounded north, east, and south by the stone wall, the 2 blocks of the cell house form a parallelogram, enclosing the shops, kitchen, hospital, and, on the extreme south, the women's quarters. Break ranks. We enter number 7, a mat shop. With difficulty, I distinguish the objects in the dark, low-ceilinged room, with its small barred windows. The air is heavy with dust. The rattling of the looms is deafening. An atmosphere of noisy gloom pervades the place. The officer in charge assigns me to a machine occupied by a lanky prisoner in stripes. "Jim, show him what to do." Considerable time passes without Jim taking the least notice of me. Bent low over the machine, he seems absorbed in the work, his hands deftly manipulating the shuttle, his foot on the treadle. Presently, he whispers, hoarsely, "Fresh fish?" "What did you say?" "You bloke long here?" 2 weeks. "What you doing?" 21 years. "Quit your kiddin'. It's true." "Honest? Holy gee." The shuttle flies to and fro. Jim is silent for a while, then he demands, abruptly, "What they put you here for?" "I don't know." "Been kickin'?" "No." "Den use the bugs?" "Why so?" "Dis here is crank shop. They never put a mug here except he's bugs, or else they got it in for you." "How do you happen to be here?" "Me? The goddamn bitch got it in for me. See dis?" He points to a deep gash over his temple. "Had a scap wid the screws. Almost knocked me glimmer out. It was that big bull there, Pete Hoods. I'll get even with him, all right. Damn his rotten soul. I'll kill him. By God, I will. I'll croak here anyhow." "Perhaps it isn't so bad," I tried to encourage him. "It ain't, eh? What do you know about it? I've got the calm bad, splitting blood every night. This dust killing me. Kill you too, damn quick." As if to emphasize his words, he is seized with a fit of coughing, prolonged and hollow. The shuttle has, in the meantime, become entangled in the fringes of the matting. Recovering his breath, Jim snatches the knife at his side, and with a few deft strokes releases the metal. To and fro flies the gleaming thing, and Jim is again absorbed in his task. "Don't bother me no more," he warns me. "I'm behind with me work." Every muscle tense, his long body almost stretched across the loom, in turn pulling and pushing, Jim bends every effort to hasten the completion of the day's task. The guard approaches. "How's he doing?" he inquires, indicating me with a nod of the head. "He's alright, but say, Hoods, this here is no place for de kid. He's got a 21 spot." "Shut your damn trap," the officer retorts angrily. The consumptive bends over his work, fearfully eyeing the keeper's measuring stick. As the officer turns away, Jim pleads, "Mr. Hoods, I'd lose time teaching. Won't you please take off a bit? De task is more'n I can do, and I'm sick." "Nonsense. There's nothing the matter with you, Jim. You're just lazy, that's what you are. Don't be shamming now, it don't go with me." At noon, the overseer calls me aside. "You're green here," he warns me. "Pay no attention to Jim. He wanted to be bad, but we showed him different. He's all right now. You have a long time. See that you behave yourself. This is no playhouse, you understand?" As I am about to resume my place in the line forming to march back to the cells for dinner, he recalls me. "Say, Alec, you'd better keep an eye on that fellow Jim. He is a little off, you know." He points toward my head with his significant rotary motion. Section 2. The mat shop is beginning to affect my health. The dust has inflamed my throat, and my eyesight is weakening in the constant dusk. The officer in charge has repeatedly expressed dissatisfaction with my slow progress in the work. "I'll give you another chance," he cautioned me yesterday, "and if you don't make a good map by next week, down in the hole you go." He severely upbraided Jim for his inefficiency as instructor. As the consumptive was about to reply, he suffered an attack of coughing. The emaciated face turned greenish-yellow, but in a moment he seemed to recover and continued working. Suddenly, I saw him clutch at the frame. A look of terror spread over his face. He began panting for breath, and then a stream of dark blood gushed from his mouth, and Jim fell to the floor. The steady whir of the looms continued. The prisoner at the neighboring machine cast a furtive look at the prostrate form, and bent lower over his work. Jim lay motionless, the blood dyeing the floor purple. I rushed to the officer. "Mr. Hoods, Jim has— Back to your place, damn you," he shouted at me. "How dare you leave it without permission?" "I just— Get back, I tell you," he roared, raising the heavy stick. I returned to my place. Jim lay very still, his lips parted, his face ashen. Slowly, with measured step, the officer approached. "What's the matter here?" I pointed at Jim. The guard glanced at the unconscious man, then lightly touched the bleeding face with his foot. "Get up, Jim, get up!" The nerveless head rolled to the side, striking the leg of the loom. "Guess he isn't shamming," the officer muttered. Then he shook his finger at me, menacingly. "Don't you ever leave your place without orders. Remember, you—" After a long delay, causing me to fear that Jim had been forgotten, the doctor arrived. It was Mr. Rankin, the senior prison physician, a short, stocky man of advanced middle age, with a humorous twinkle in his eye. He ordered the sick prisoner taken to the hospital. "Did anyone see the man fall?" he inquired. "This man did," the keeper replied, indicating me. While I was explaining, the doctor eyed me curiously. Presently he asked my name. "Oh, the celebrated case," he smiled. "I know Mr. Frick quite well. Not such a bad man at all. But you'll be treated well here, Mr. Berkman. This is a democratic institution, you know. By the way, what is the matter with your eyes? They are inflamed. Always that way?" "Only since I am working in this shop." "Ah, he is all right, doctor," the officer interposed. "He's only been here a week." Mr. Rankin cast a quizzical look at the guard. "You want him here?" "YES, we're short of men." "Well, I am the doctor, Mr. Hoods." Then, turning to me, he added, "Report in the morning on the sick list." Section 3. The doctor's examination has resulted in my removal to the hosiery department. The change has filled me with renewed hope. A disciplinary shop, to which are generally assigned the hard cases, inmates in the first stages of mental derangement or exceptionally unruly prisoners. The mat shop is the point of special supervision and severest discipline. It is the best guarded shop, from which escape is impossible. But in the hosiery department, a recent addition to the local industries, I may find the right opportunity. It will require time, of course, but my patience shall be equal to the great object. The working conditions, also, are more favorable. The room is light and airy, the discipline not so stringent. My nearsightedness has secured for me immunity from machine work. The deputy at first insisted that my eyes were good enough to see the numerous needles of the hosiery machine. It is true, I could see them, but not with sufficient distinctness to ensure the proper insertion of the initial threads. To admit partial ability would result, I knew, in being ordered to produce the task. And failure, or faulty work, would be severely punished. Necessity drove me to subterfuge. I pretended total inability to distinguish the needles. Repeated threats of punishment failing to change my determination, I have been assigned to the comparatively easy work of turning the stockings. The occupation, though tedious, is not exacting. It consists in gathering the hosiery manufactured by the knitting machines, whence the product issues without soles. I carry the pile to the table provided with an iron post, about 18 inches high, topped with a small inverted disc. On this instrument, the stockings are turned inside out by slipping the article over the post, then quickly undressing it. The hosiery thus turned is forwarded to the looping machines, by which the product is finished and sent back to me, once more to be turned, preparatory to sorting and shipment. Monotonously, the days and weeks pass by. Practice lends me great dexterity in the work, but the hours of drudgery drag with heavy heel. I seek to hasten time by forcing myself to take an interest in the task. I count the stockings I turn, the motions required by each operation, and the amount accomplished within a given time. But in spite of these efforts, my mind persistently reverts to unprofitable subjects, my friends and the propaganda, the terrible injustice of my excessive sentence, suicide and escape. My nights are restless. Oppressed with a nameless weight, or tormented by dread, I awake with a start, breathless and affrighted, to experience the momentary relief of danger past. But the next instant I am overwhelmed by the consciousness of my surroundings, and plunged into rage and despair, powerless, hopeless. Thus, day succeeds night, and night succeeds day, in the ceaseless struggle of hope and discouragement, of life and death, amid the externally placid tenor of my Pennsylvania nightmare. End of section 12. Section 13 of Prison Memoirs of an Anarchist by Alexander Berkman. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recording by Kwame Genov. youtube.com/c/KWAMEGENOVV. My first letter. Section 1. Direct to Box A7, Allegheny City, Pennsylvania, October 19th, 1892. Dear Sister, it is just a month today, since my coming here. I keep wondering, can such a world of misery and torture be compressed into one short month? How I have longed for this opportunity. You will understand, a month's stay is required before we are permitted to write. But many long letters I have written to you in my mind, dear Sonia. Where shall I begin now? My space is very limited, and I have so much to say to you and to the twin. I received your letters. You need not wait till you hear from me. Keep on writing. I am allowed to receive all mail sent of moral contents in the phraseology of the rules, and I shall write whenever I may. Dear Sonia, I sense bitterness and disappointment in your letter. Why do you speak of failure? You, at least, you and Fedya, should not have your judgment obscured by the mere accident of physical results. Your lines pained and grieved me beyond words, not because you should write thus, but that you, even you, should think thus. Need I enlarge? True morality deals with motives, not consequences. I cannot believe that we differ on this point. I fully understand what a terrible blow the apostasy of verse must have been to you. but however it may minimize the effect, it cannot possibly alter the fact or its character. This you seem to have lost sight of. In spite of Verst, a great deal could have been accomplished. I don't know whether it has been done. Your letter is very meager on this point. Yet it is of supreme interest to me. But I know, Sonia, of this one thing, at least, I am sure. You will do all that is in your power. Perhaps it is not much, but the twin and part of Orchard Street will be with you. Why that note of disappointment, almost of resentment, as to Tolstoy-Gubb's relation to Darwinian theory? You must consider that the layman cannot judge of the intricacies of scientific hypotheses. The scientist would justly object to such presumption. I embrace you both. The future is dark, but then, who knows? Write often. Tell me about the movement, yourself and friends. It will help to keep me in touch with the outside world, which daily seems to recede further. I clutch desperately at the thread that still binds me to the living. It seems to unravel in my hands. The thin skeins are breaking, one by one. My hold is slackening. But the Sonia thread, I know, will remain taut and strong. I have always called you the immutable. Alex. Section 2. I posted the letter in the prisoner's mailbox when the line formed for work this morning. But the moment the missive left my hands, I was seized with a great longing. Oh, if some occult means would transform me into that slip of paper. I should now be hidden in that green box. With bated breath, I'd flatten myself in the darkest recess and wait for the chaplain to collect the mail. My heart beats tumultuously as the wild fancy flutters in my brain. I am oblivious of the forming lines, the sharp commands, the heavy tread. Automatically, I turn the hosiery, counting 1, 2, 1 pair, 3, 4, 2 pair. Whose voice is it I hear? I surely know the man. There is something familiar about him. He bends over the looping machines and gathers the stockings. Now he is counting. 1, 2, 1 pair, 3, 4, 2 pair. Just like myself. Why, he looks like myself. And the men all seem to think it is I. Ha ha ha. The officer also. I just heard him say, "Alec, work a little faster, can't you? See the piles there? You're falling behind." He thinks it's I. What a clever substitution. And all the while the real me is snugly lying here in the green box, peeping through the keyhole on the watch for the postman. Shh, I hear a footstep. Perhaps it is the chaplain. He will open the box with his quick, nervous hands, seize a handful of letters, and thrust them into the large pocket of his black serge coat. There are so many letters here, I'll slip among them into the large pocket. The chaplain will not notice me. He'll think it's just a letter. Ha ha! He'll scrutinize every word, for it's the letter of a long-timer. His first one, too. But I am safe. I'm invisible. And when they call the roll, they will take that man there for me. He is counting 19, 20, 10 pair, 21, 22. What was that? 22. Oh, yes, 22. That's my sentence. The imbeciles, they think I'm going to serve it. I had to kill myself first. But it will not be necessary, thank goodness. It was such a lucky thought, this going out in my letter. But what has become of the chaplain? If he'd only come, why is he so long? They might miss me in the shop. Section 14 of Prison Memoirs of an Anarchist by Alexander Berkman. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recording by Kwame Genov, youtube.com/c/KWAMEGENOVV. Wingy. The hours at work help to dull the acute consciousness of my environment. The hosiery department is past the stage of experiment. The introduction of additional knitting machines has enlarged my task, necessitating increased effort and more sedulous application. The shop routine now demands all my attention. It leaves little time for thinking or brooding. My physical condition alarms me. The morning hours completely exhaust me, and I am barely able to keep up with the line returning to the cell house for the noon meal. A feeling of lassitude possesses me. My feet drag heavily, and I experience great difficulty in mastering my sleepiness. I have grown indifferent to the meals. The odor of the food nauseates me. I am nervous and morbid. The sight of a striped prisoner disgusts me. The proximity of a guard enrages me. The shop officer has repeatedly warned me against my disrespectful and surly manner, but I am indifferent to consequences. What matter what happens? My waning strength is a source of satisfaction. Perhaps it indicates the approach of death. The thought pleases me in a quiet, impersonal way. There will be no more suffering, no anguish. The world at large is non-existent. It is centered in me, and yet I myself stand aloof and see it falling into gradual peace and quiet, into extinction. Back in my cell after the day's work, I leave the evening meal of bread and coffee untouched. My candle remains unlit. I sit listlessly in the gathering dusk, conscious only of the longing to hear the gong's deep bass, the 3 bells tolling the order to retire. I welcome the blessed permission to fall into bed. The coarse straw mattress beckons invitingly. I yearn for sleep, for oblivion. Occasional mail from friends rouses me from my apathy, but the awakening is brief. The tone of the letter is guarded, their contents too general in character. The matters that might kindle my interest are missing. The world and its problems are drifting from my horizon. I am cast into the darkness. No ray of sunshine holds out the promise of spring. At times, the realization of my fate is borne in upon me with the violence of a shock, and I am engulfed in despair, now threatening to break down the barriers of sanity, now affording melancholy satisfaction in the wild play of fancy. Existence grows more and more unbearable with the contrast of dream and reality. Weary of the day's routine, I welcome the solitude of the cell, impatient even of the greeting of the passing convict. I shrink from the uninvited familiarity of these men, the horizontal gray and black constantly reviving the image of the tigress, with their stealthy, vicious cunning. They are not of my world. I would aid them, as in duty bound to the victims of social injustice, but I cannot be friends with them. They do not belong to the people, to whose service my life is consecrated. Unfortunates, indeed, yet parasites upon their producers, less in degree, but no less in kind than the rich exploiters. By virtue of my principles, rather than their deserts, I must give them my intellectual sympathy. They touch no chord in my heart. Only Wingy seems different. There is a gentle note about his manner that breathes cheer and encouragement. Often I long for his presence, yet he seldom finds opportunity to talk with me, save Sundays during church service when I remain in the cell. Perhaps I may see him today. He must be careful of the block captain on his rounds of the galleries, counting the church delinquents. The captain is passing on the range now. I recognize the uncertain step, instantly ready to halt at the sight of a face behind the bars. Now he is at the cell. He pencils in his notebook the number of the wooden block over the door, A7. "Catholic?" he asks mechanically, then looking up, he frowns on me. "You're no Catholic, Berkman. What do you stay in for?" "I am an atheist." "A what?" "An atheist. A non-believer." "Oh, an infidel are you? You'll be damned sure enough." The wooden stairs creak beneath the officer's weight. He has turned the corner. Wingy will take advantage now. I hope he will come soon. Perhaps somebody is watching. "Hello, Alec. Want a piece of pie? Here, grab it." "Pie, Wingy?" I whisper wonderingly. "Where do you get such luxuries?" "Swipe from the screw's poke. Cornbread Tom's dinner basket, you know. The cheap guy saved it after breakfast. Rotten, ain't he?" "Why so?" "Why, you greenie, he's a stomach robber. That's what he is. It's our pie, Alec, made here in the bakery. That's why our punk is stale, see? They steals the yeast to make pies for the screws. Are you next? How do you like the grub, anyhow?" "The bread is generally stale, Wingy, and the coffee tastes like tepid water." "Coffee, you call it? Heh heh, coffee hell. It ain't no damn coffee. 'Twas never near coffee. It's just bootleg, Alec, bootleg. Know how it's made?" No." "Well, I've been 3 months in the kitchen. You collect all the old punk that the cons dump out with their dinner pans. Only the crusts used, see? Like as not some stiff coon spit on it. Some's mean enough to do it, you know. Makes no diff, though. Orders is, cut off the crust and burn 'em to a good black crisp. Then you pour boiling water over it and dump it in the kettle, inside a bag, you know, and throw a little dirty chicory in. There's your coffee. I never touch the rotten stuff. It ruins your stomach, that's what it does, Alec. You oughtn't drink this, Will. I don't care if it kills me. Come, Alec, cheer up, old boy. You got a tough bit, I know, but don't take it so hard. Don't think of your time. Forget it. Oh, yes, you can. You just take my word for it. Make some friends. Think who you want to see tomorrow, and then try to see 'em. That's what you want to do, Alec. It'll keep you hustling. Best thing for the blues, kitty. For a moment he pauses in his hurried whisper. The soft eyes are full of sympathy, the lips smile encouragingly. He leans the broom against the door, glances quickly around, hesitates an instant, and then deftly slips a slender, delicate hand between the bars and gives my cheek a tender pat. Involuntarily I step back, with the instinctive dislike of a man's caress. Yet I would not offend my kind friend. But Wingy must have noticed my annoyance. He eyes me critically, wonderingly. Presently picking up the broom, he says with a touch of diffidence, "You are all right, Alec. I like you for it. Just wanted to try you, see?" "How try me, Wingy?" "Oh, you ain't next. Well, you see," he hesitates, a faint flush stealing over his prison pallor. "You see, Alec, it's... wait till I pipe the screw." Poor Wingy, the ruse is too transparent to hide his embarrassment. I can distinctly follow the step of the block captain on the upper galleries. He is the sole officer in the cell house during church service. The unlocking of the yard door would apprise us of the entrance of a guard before the latter could observe Wingy at my cell. I ponder over the flimsy excuse. Why did Wingy leave me? His flushed face, the halting speech of the usually loquacious rangeman, the subterfuge employed to sneak off, as he himself would characterize his hasty departure, all seem very peculiar. What could he have meant by trying me? But before I have time to evolve a satisfactory explanation, I hear Wingy tiptoeing back. "It's all right, Alec. They won't come from the chapel for a good while yet." "What did you mean by trying me, Wingy?" Well, he stammers. "Never mind, Alec. You're a good boy, all right. You don't belong here. That's what I say." "Well, I am here, and the chances are I'll die here." "Now, don't talk so foolish, boy. I load you look down at the mouth. Now, don't you fill your head with such stuff and nonsense. Croak here, hell. You ain't going to do nothing of the kind. Don't you go broodin' now. You listen to me, Alec? That's your friend talkin', see? You're so young. Why, you're just a kid. 21, ain't ya? And talkin' about dyin'? Shame on you. Shame." His manner is angry, but the tremor in his voice sends a ray of warmth to my heart. Impulsively, I put my hand between the bars. His firm clasp assures me of returned appreciation. "You must brace up, Alec. Look at the lifers. You'd think they'd be black as night. Nit, my boy, the jolliest lot in the dump. You seen old Henry? No? Well, you ought to see him. He's the oldest man here in 15 years. A lifer, and hasn't a friend in the world, but he's happy as the day's long. And you got plenty friends, true blue too. I know you have." "I have, Wingy, but what could they do for me?" "How you talk, Alec. Could do anything. You got rich friends, I know. You was mixed up with Frick. Well, your friends are all right, ain't they?" "Of course. What could they do, Wingy?" "Get you pardon in 2-3 years maybe, see? You must make a good record here." I don't care for a pardon." "What? You're kiddin'." "No, Wingy, quite seriously. I am opposed to it on principle." "You're sure bugs. What you talking about? Principle fiddlesticks. Want to get out of here?" "Of course I do." "Well then, quit your principle racket. What's principle got to do with it? Your principle against getting out?" "No, but against being pardoned." "You're beyond me, Alec. Guess you're joshing me." "Now listen, Wingy. You see, I wouldn't apply for a pardon because it would be asking favors from the government, and I am against it, you understand? It would be of no use anyhow, Wingy. And if you could get a pardon for the asking you won't ask, Alec, that's what you mean?" "Yes." "You're hot stuff, Alec. What they call you, anarchist? Hot stuff, by gosh. Can't make you out, though. Seems daffy. Listen to me, Alec. If I was you, I'd take anything I could get and then tell 'em to go to hell. That's what I would do, my boy." He looks at me quizzically, searchingly. The faint echo of the captain's step reaches us from a gallery on the opposite side. With a quick glance to the right and left, Wingy leans over toward the door. His mouth between the bars, he whispers very low, "Principles opposed to get away, Alec?" The sudden question bewilders me. The instinct of liberty, my revolutionary spirit, the misery of my existence, all flame into being, rousing a wild, tumultuous beating of my heart, pervading my whole being with hope, intense to the point of pain. I remain silent. Is it safe to trust him? He seems kind and sympathetic. You may trust me, Alec, Wingy whispers, as if reading my thoughts. I'm your friend. Yes, Wingy, I believe you. My principles are not opposed to an escape. I have been thinking about it, but so far, shh, easy. Walls have ears. Any chance here, Wingy? Well, it's a damn tough dump, this here is, but there's many a star in heaven, Alec, and you may have a lucky one. Hasn't been a getaway here since Paddy McGaw sneaked over the roof. That's, 6-7 years ago about. How did he do it? I ask, breathlessly. Just Irish luck. They was finishing the new block, you know. Paddy was helping lay the roof. When he got it good and ready, he just goes to work and slides down the roof. Swiped stuff from the mat shop and spliced a rope together, see? They never got him either. Was he in stripes, Wingy? Sure he was, only been in a few months. How did he manage to get away in stripes? Wouldn't he be recognized as an escaped prisoner? That bother you, Alec? Why, it's easy. Get planted till dark, then hold up the first bloke you see and take his duds. Or push in the back door of a rag joint. Plenty of 'em in Allegheny. Is there any chance now through the roof? Nit, my boy. Nothing doing there. But a feller's got to be alive. Many ways to kill a cat, you know. Remember the stiff you got in them things, towel and soap? You know about it, Wingy? I ask in amazement. Do I? Heh heh, you little... The click of steel sounds warning. Wingy disappears. End of section 14. Section 15 of Prison Memoirs of an Anarchist by Alexander Berkman. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recording by Kwame Genov. youtube.com/C/KWAMEGENOVV. To the Girl. Direct to Box A7, Allegheny City, Pennsylvania, November 18th, 1892. My dear Sonia, it seems an age since I wrote to you, yet it is only a month. But the monotony of my life weights down the heels of time. The only break in the terrible sameness is afforded me by your dear, affectionate letters, and those of Fedya. When I return to the cell for the noon meal, my step is quickened by the eager expectation of finding mail from you. About 11 in the morning, the chaplain makes his rounds. His practiced hand shoots the letter between the bars, toward the bed or onto the little table in the corner. But if the missive is light, it will flutter to the floor. As I reach the cell, the position of the little white object at once apprises me whether the letter is long or short. With closed eyes I sense its weight, like the warm pressure of your own dear hand, the touch reaching softly to my heart, till I feel myself lifted across the chasm into your presence. The bars fade, the walls disappear, and the air grows sweet with the aroma of fresh air and flowers. I am again with you, walking in the bright July moonlight. The touch of Velikrushin in your eyes and hair conjures up the Volga, our beautiful Bogatyr, and the strains of the Doblinushka, trembling with suffering and yearning, float about me. The meal remains untouched. I dream over your letter, and again I read it, slowly, slowly, lest I reach the end too quickly. The afternoon hours are hollowed by your touch and your presence, and I am conscious only of the longing for my cell. In the quiet of the evening, freed from the nightmare of the immediate, I walk in the garden of our dreams. And the following morning, at work in the shop, I pass in anxious wonder whether some cheering word from my own, my real world, is awaiting me in the cell. With a glow of emotion I think of the chaplain, perhaps at the very moment your letter is in his hands. He is opening it, reading. Why should strange eyes... But the chaplain seems kind and discreet. Now he is passing along the galleries, distributing the mail. The bundle grows meager as the postman reaches the ground floor. Ugh, if he does not come to my cell quickly, he may have no letters left. But the next moment I smile at the childish thought. If there is a letter for me, no other prisoner will get it. Yet some error might happen. No, it is impossible. My name and prison number, and the cell number marked by the chaplain across the envelope all ensure the mail against any mistake in delivery. Now the dinner whistle blows. Eagerly I hasten to the cell. There is nothing on the floor. Perhaps on the bed, on the table. I grow feverish with the dread of disappointment. Possibly the letter fell under the bed, or in that dark corner. No, none there. But it can't be that there is no mail for me today. I must look again. It may have dropped among the blankets. No, there is no letter. Thus pass my days, dear friend, in thought I am ever with you and Fedya, in our old haunts and surroundings. I shall never get used to this life, nor find an interest in the reality of the moment. What will become of me, I don't know. I hardly care. We are revolutionists, dear. Whatever sacrifices the cause demands, though the individual perish, humanity will profit in the end. In that consciousness we must find our solace. Alex. Sub Rosa. Last day of November, 1892. Beloved girl. I thought I would not survive the agony of our meeting, but human capacity for suffering seems boundless. All my thoughts, all my yearnings, were centered in the one desire to see you, to look into your eyes, and there read the beautiful promise that has filled my days with strength and hope. An embrace, a lingering kiss, and the gift of Ling would have been mine. To grasp your hand, to look down for a mute, immortal instant into your soul, and then die at your hands, beloved, with the warm breath of your caress wafting me into peaceful eternity. Oh, it were bliss supreme, the realization of our daydreams, when, in transports of ecstasy, we kissed the image of the social revolution. Do you remember that glorious face, so strong and tender, on the wall of our little Houston Street hall room? How far, far in the past are those inspired moments? But they have filled my hours with hollowed thoughts, with exulting expectations. And then you came. I glanced at your face, and I knew my doom to terrible life. I read it in the evil look of the guard. It was the deputy himself. Perhaps you had been searched. He followed our every moment, like a famished cat that feigns indifference, yet is alert with every nerve to spring upon the victim. Oh, I know the calculated viciousness beneath that meek exterior. The accelerated movement of his drumming fingers, as he deliberately seated himself between us, warned me of the beast, hungry for prey. The halo was dissipated. The words froze within me, and I could meet you only with a vapid smile, and on the instant it was mirrored in my soul as a leer, and I was filled with anger and resentment at everything about us, myself, the deputy. I could have throttled him to death, and at you, dear. Yes, Sonia, even at you. The quick come to bury the dead. But the next moment, the unworthy throb of my agonized soul was stilled by the passionate pressure of my lips upon your hand. How it trembled! I held it between my own, and then, as I lifted my face to yours, the expression I beheld seemed to bereave me of my own self. It was you who were I. The drawn face, the look of horror, your whole being the cry of torture. Were you not the real prisoner? Or was it my vision suffering that cemented the spiritual bond, annihilating all misunderstanding, all resentment, and lifting us above time and place in the afflatus of martyrdom? Mutely I held your hand. There was no need for words. Only the prying eyes of the cat-like presence disturbed the sacred moment. Then we spoke, mechanically, trivialities. What though the cadaverous deputy with brutal gaze timed the seconds, and forbade the sound of our dear Russian? Nor heaven nor earth could violate the sacrament sealed with our pain. The echo accompanied my step as I passed through the rotunda on my way to the cell. All was quiet in the block. No whir of loom reached me from the shops. Thanksgiving Day, all activities were suspended. I felt at peace in the silence. But when the door was locked and I found myself alone, all alone within the walls of the tomb, the full significance of your departure suddenly dawned on me. The quick had left the dead. Terror of the reality seized me, and I was swept by a paroxysm of anguish. I must close. The friend who promised to have this letter mailed sub rosa is at the door. He is a kind unfortunate who has befriended me. May this letter reach you safely. In token of which, send me postal of indifferent contents, casually mentioning the arrival of news from my brother in Moscow. Remember to sign Sister. With a passionate embrace, your Shasha. End of section 15. Section 16 of Prison Memoirs of an Anarchist by Alexander Berkman. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recording by Kwame Ganov, youtube.com/c/KWAMEGENOVV. Persecution. Section 1. Suffering and ever-present danger are quick teachers. In the 3 months of penitentiary life, I have learned many things. I doubt whether the vague terrors pictured by my inexperience were more dreadful than the actuality of prison existence. In one respect, especially, the reality is a source of bitterness and constant irritation. Notwithstanding all its terrors, perhaps because of them, I had always thought of prison as a place where, in a measure, nature comes into its own. Social distinctions are abolished, artificial barriers destroyed. No need of hiding one's thoughts and emotions. One could be his real self, shedding all hypocrisy and artifice at the prison gates. But how different is this life? It is full of deceit, sham, and farism, an aggravated counterpart of the outside world. The flatterer, the backbiter, the spy, these find here a rich soil. The ill will of a guard portends disaster, to be averted only by truckling and flattery, and servility fawns for the reward of an easier job. The dissembling soul in stripes winds his conversation into the pleased ears of the Christian ladies, taking care he be not surprised without tract or Bible, and presently simulated piety secures a pardon, for the angels rejoice at the sinner's return to the fold. It sickens me to witness these scenes. The officers make the alternative quickly apparent to the new inmate. To protest against injustice is unavailing and dangerous. Yesterday I witnessed in the shop a characteristic incident, a fight between Johnny Davis and Jack Bradford, both recent arrivals and mere boys. Johnny, a manly-looking fellow, works on a knitting machine, a few feet from my table. Opposite him is Jack, whose previous experience in a reformatory has put him wise, as he expresses it. My 3-month stay has taught me the art of conversing by an almost imperceptible motion of the lips. In this manner I learned from Johnny that Bradford is stealing his product, causing him repeated punishment for shortage in the task. Hoping to terminate the thefts, Johnny complained to the overseer, though without accusing Jack. But the guard ignored the complaint and continued to report the youth. Finally, Johnny was sent to the dungeon. Yesterday morning he returned to work. The change in the rosy-cheeked boy was startling. Pale and hollow-eyed, he walked with a weak, halting step. As he took his place at the machine, I heard him say to the officer, "Mr. Corson, please put me somewhere else." "Why so?" the guard asked. "I can't make the task here. I'll make it on another machine. Please, Mr. Corson." "Why can't you make it here?" "I'm missing socks." "Ho ho, playing the old game, are ya? Want to go to the hole again, eh?" "I couldn't stand the hole again, Mr. Corson. Swear to God I couldn't. But my socks is missing here." "Missing, hell! Who's stealing your box, eh? Don't come with no such bluff. Nobody can't steal your socks while I'm around. You go to work now, and you better make the task, understand?" Late in the afternoon, when the count was taken, Johnny proved 18 pairs short. Bradford was over. I saw Mr. Carson approach Johnny. 30 machine 30, he shouted. "You all made the task, eh? Put your coat and cap on." Fatal words. They meant immediate report to the deputy and the inevitable sentence to the dungeon. "Oh, Mr. Carson," the youth pleaded, "it ain't my fault. So help me God it isn't." "It ain't, eh? Whose fault is it? Mine?" Johnny hesitated. His eyes sought to the ground, then wandered toward Bradford, who studiously avoided the look. "I can't squeal," he said, quietly. "Oh, hell, you ain't got nothing to squeal. Get your coat and cap." Johnny passed the night in the dungeon. This morning he came up, his cheeks more sunken, his eyes more hollow. With desperate energy he worked. He toiled steadily, furiously, his gaze fastened upon the growing pile of hosiery. Occasionally he shot a glance at Bradford, who, confident of the officer's favor, met the look of hatred with a sly winking of the left eye. Once Johnny, without pausing in the work, slightly turned his head in my direction. I smiled encouragingly, and at that same instant I saw Jack's hand slip across the table and quickly snatch a handful of Johnny's stockings. The next moment a piercing shriek threw the shop into commotion. With difficulty they tore away the infuriated boy with the prostrate Bradford. Both prisoners were taken to the deputy for trial, with Senior Officer Cosson as the sole witness. Impatiently I awaited the result. Through the open window I saw the overseer return. He entered the shop, a smile about the corners of his mouth. I resolved to speak to him when he passed by. "Mr. Cosson," I said, with simulated respectfulness, "may I ask you a question?" "Why, certainly, Burke. I won't eat you. Fire away." "What have they done with the boys?" "Johnny got 10 days in the hole. Pretty stiff, eh? You see, he started the fight, so he won't have to make the task. Oh, I'm next to him, all right. They can't fool me so easy, can they, Burke?" "Well, I should say not, Mr. Cosson. Did you see how this fight started?" "No, but Johnny admitted he struck Bradford first. That's enough, you know. Brad will be back in the shop tomorrow. I got him off easy, see? He's a good worker, always makes more than the task. He'll just lose his supper. Guessed he can stand it. Ain't much to lose, is there, Burke?" "No, not much," I assented. "But, Mr. Cosson, it was all Bradford's fault." "How so?" the guard demanded. "He has been stealing Johnny's stocks." "You didn't see him do it." "Yes, Mr. Cosson, I saw him Look here, Burke, it's all right. Johnny is no good anyway. He's too fresh. You better say nothing about it, see? My word goes with the deputy." The terrible injustice preys on my mind. Poor Johnny is already the 4th day in the dreaded dungeon. His 3rd time, too, and yet absolutely innocent. My blood boils at the thought of the damnable treatment and the officer's perfidy. It is my duty as a revolutionist to take the part of the persecuted. Yes, I will do so. But how proceed in the manner? Complaint against Mr. Cosson would in all likelihood prove futile, and the officer, informed of my action, will make life miserable for me. His authority in the shop is absolute. The several plans I resolve in my mind do not prove, upon closer examination, feasible. Considerations of personal interest struggle against my sense of duty. The vision of Johnny in the dungeon, his vacant machine, and Bradford's smile of triumph keep the accusing conscience awake, till silence grows unbearable. I determine to speak to the deputy warden at the first opportunity. Several days pass. Often I am assailed by doubts. Is it advisable to mention the matter to the deputy? It cannot benefit Johnny, it will involve me in trouble. But the next moment I feel ashamed of my weakness. I call to mind the much-admired hero of my youth, the celebrated Mishkin. With an overpowering sense of my own unworthiness, I review the brave deeds of the Hippolyte Nikitch. What a man! Single-handed he essayed to liberate Chernevsky from prison. Ah, the curse of poverty! But for that, Mishkin would have succeeded, and the great inspirer of the youth of Russia would have been given back to the world. I dwell on the details of the almost successful escape, Mishkin's fight with the pursuing Cossacks, his arrest, and his remarkable speech in court. Sentenced to 10 years of hard labor in the Siberian mines, he defied the Russian tyrant by his funeral oration at the grave of Domesky, his boldness resulting in an additional 15 years of katorga. Minutely, I follow his repeated attempts to escape, the transfer of redoubtable prisoner to the Petroplaviska fortress, and thence to the terrible Schusselburg prison, where Mishkin braved death by avenging the maltreatment of his comrades on a high government official. Ah, thus acts the revolutionist, and yes, I am decided. No danger shall seal my lips against outrage and injustice. At last an opportunity is at hand. The deputy enters the shop. Tall and gray, slightly stooping, with head carried forward, he resembles a wolf following the trail. "Mr. McPain, one moment, please." "Yes." "I think Johnny Davis is being punished innocently." "You think? And who is this innocent Johnny, Davis?" His fingers drum impatiently on the table. He measures me with mocking, suspicious eyes. "Machine 30, deputy." "Ah, yes, Machine 30, Reddy Davis. He had a fight." "The other man stole his stockings. I saw it, Mr. McPain." So. And why, did you see it, my good man? You confess, then, you were not, attending to your own work? That is bad, very bad, Mr. Cosson. The guard hastens to him. Mr. Colson, this man has made a charge against you. Prisoner, don't interrupt me. What is your number? A7. Mr. Colson, A7 makes a complaint against the officer in charge of this shop. Please note it down. Both draw aside, conversing in low tones. The words kicker, his kid, reach my ears. The deputy nods at the overseer, his steely eyes fastened on me in hatred. Section 2. I feel helpless, friendless. The consolation of Wingy's cheerful spirit is missing. My poor friend is in trouble. From snatches of conversation in the shop, I have pieced together the story. Dutch Adams, a third-timer and the deputy's favorite stool pigeon, had lost his month's allowance of tobacco on a prize fight bet. He demanded that Wingy, who was stakeholder, share the spoils with him. Infuriated by refusal, Dutch reported my friend for gambling. The unexpected search of Wingy's cell discovered the tobacco, thus apparently substantiating the charge. Wingy was sent to the dungeon. But after the expiration of 5 days, my friend failed to return to his old cell, and I soon learned that he has been ordered to the solitary confinement for refusing to betray the men who had trusted him. The fate of Wingy preys on my mind. My poor kind friend is breaking down under the effects of the dreadful sentence. This morning, chancing to pass his cell, I hailed him, but he did not respond to my greeting. Perhaps he did not hear me, I thought. Impatiently, I waited for the noon return to the block. "Hello, Wingy," I called. He stood at the door, intently peering between the bars. He stared at me coldly, with blank, expressionless eyes. "Who are you?" he whimpered, brokenly. Then he began to babble. Suddenly, the terrible truth dawned on me. My poor, poor friend, the first to speak a kind word to me. He's gone mad. End of section 16. Section 17 of Prison Memoirs of an Anarchist by Alexander Berkman. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recording by Kwame Genov, youtube.com/C/KWAMEGENOVV. The Yeg. Section 1. Weeks and months pass without clarifying plans of escape. Every step, every movement is so closely guarded, I seem to be hoping against hope. I am restive and nervous, in a constant state of excitement. Conditions in the shop tend to aggravate my frame of mind. The task of the machine men has been increased. In consequence, I am falling behind in my work. My repeated requests for assistance have been ignored by the overseer, who improves every opportunity to insult and humiliate me. His feet wide apart, arms akimbo, belly disgustingly protruding, he measures me with narrow, fat eyes. "Oh, what's the matter with you?" he drawls. "Get a move on, won't you, Burke?" Then, changing his tone, he vociferates. "Don't stand there like a fool, d'ye hear? Next time I report you, to the hole you go. That's me talking, understand?" Often, I feel the spirit of Cain stirring within me. But for the hope of escape, I should not be able to bear this abuse and persecution. As it is, the guard is almost overstepping the limits of my endurance. His low cunning invents numerous occasions to mortify and harass me. The ceaseless dropping of the poison is making my days in the shop a constant torture. I seek relief, forgetfulness rather, in absorbing myself in the work. I bend my energies to outdo the efforts of the previous day. I compete with myself, and find melancholy pleasure in establishing and breaking high records for turning. Again, I tax my ingenuity to perfect means of communication with Johnny Davis, my young neighbor. Apparently intent upon our task, we carry on a silent conversation with eyes, fingers, and an occasional motion of the lips. To facilitate the latter method, I am cultivating the habit of tobacco chewing. The practice also affords greater opportunity for exchanging impressions with my newly acquired assistant, an old-timer, who introduced himself as Boston Red. I owe this development to the return of the warden from his vacation. Yesterday he visited the shop. A military-looking man, with benevolent white beard and stately carriage, he approached me, in company with the superintendent of prison manufactures. "Is this the celebrated prisoner?" he asked, a faint smile about the rather coarse mouth. Yes, Captain, that's Berkman, the man who shot Frick. I was in Naples at the time. I read about you in the English papers there, Berkman. How is his conduct, Superintendent? Good. Well, he should have behaved outside. But noticing the mountain of unturned hosiery, the warden ordered the overseer to give me help, and thus Boston Red joined me at work the next day. My assistant is taking great pleasure in perfecting me in the art of lipless conversation. A large quid of tobacco inflating his left cheek, mouth slightly open and curved, he delights in recounting ghost stories, under the very eyes of the officers. Red is initiating me into the world of D-Road, with its free life, so full of interest and adventure, its romance, joys, and sorrows. An interesting character, indeed, who facetiously pretends to look down upon the world from the sublime heights of applied cynicism. Why, Red, you can talk good English, I admonish him. Why do you use so much slang? It's rather difficult for me to follow you. I'll learn you, pard. See, I should have said teach you, not learn. That's how they talk in school. Have I been there? Sure, boy. Gone through college. Went through it with a bucket of coal, he amplifies, with a sly wink. He turns to expectorate, sweeping the large shop with a quick, watchful eye. Head bent over the work, he continues in low, guttural tones. Don't care for your classic language. I can use it all right, but give me the lingo, every time. You see, pard, I'm no gun. Don't need it in me biz. I'm a yegg. What's a yegg, Red? A supercilious world of cheerful idiots applies to my kind the term tramp. A yegg, then, is a tramp. I am surprised that you should care for the life of a bum. A flush suffuses the prison pallor of the assistant. You're as stupid as the rest of 'em, he retorts, with considerable heat, and I notice his lips move as in ordinary conversation. But in a moment he has regained composure, and a good-humored twinkle plays about his eyes. Sir, he continues, with mock dignity, to say the least, you are not discriminative in your terminology. No, sir, you are not. Now, looky here, pard. You're a good boy, but your education has been sadly neglected. Catch on? Don't call me that name again. It's offensive. It's an insult. Entirely gratuitous, sir. Indeed, sir, I may say without fear of contradiction that this insult is quite supervecunious. Yes, sir, that's me. I ain't no bum, see? No such damn thing. Eliminate the disgraceful epithet from your vocabulary, sir, when you are addressing yours truly. I am a Yag. Y-A-G-G, sir, of the honorable clan of Yagmen. Some spell it Y-E-G-G, but I insist on the A, sir, as grammatically more correct, since the peerless word has no etymologic consanguinity with hen fruit, and should not be confounded by vulgar misspelling. What's the difference between a yegg and a bum? All the diff in the world, pard. A bum is a low-down city bloke, whose intellectual horizon, sir, revolves around the back door, with a skinny handout as his center of gravity. He hasn't the nerve to forsake his native health and roam the wide world, a free and independent gentleman. That's the yag, me by. He dares to be and do, all bulls notwithstanding. He lives, he lives, on the world of suckers. Thank you, sir. Of them 'tis wisely said of the good book, they shall increase and multiply like the sands of the seashore, or words to that significant effect. A yag's the salt of the earth, pard. A real, true-blood yag will not deign to breathe the identical atmosphere with the city bum or gay cat. No siree. I am about to ask for an explanation of the new term, when the quick, short coughs of Red warn me of danger. The guard is approaching with heavy, measured tread, head thrown back, hands clasped behind, a sure indication of profound self-satisfaction. How are you, Reddy? He greets the assistant. So-so. Ain't been out long, have you? 2 and some. That's pretty long for you. I don't know. I've been out of 4 years one set. Yes, you have. Been in Columbus then, I suppose. Not on your life, Mr. Cosson. It was Sing Sing. Ha ha! You're all right, Red. But you'd better hustle up, fellers. I'm putting in 10 more machines, so look lively. When's the machines coming, Mr. Cosson? Pretty soon, Red. The officer passing on, Red whispers to me. Alec, pretty soon is just the time I'll quit. Damn his work and the new machines. I ain't no gay cat to work. Think I'm a nigger, eh? No, sir. The world owes me a livin', and I generally manage to get it, you bet you. Only mules and niggers work. I'm a free man. I can live on my wits. See? I don't never work outside. Damn if I'll work here. I ain't no office seeker. What do I want to work for, eh? Can you tell me that? Are you going to refuse work? Refuse? Me? Nixie. That's a crude word, that. No, sir, I never refuse. They'll knock your damn block off if you refuse. I merely avoid, sir, discriminately and with steadfast purpose. Work is a disease, me by. One must exercise the utmost care to avoid contagium. It's a regular pest. You never worked, did you? You bloke, he hisses. Shut your face, the screw'll pipe you. You'll get us in the hole for chewing the rag. What you're hee-hawing about, he demands, repeating the maneuver of pretended expectoration. Do you mean to tell me you work? I am a printer, a compositor, I inform him. Get off. You're an anarchist. I read the papers, sir. You people don't believe in work. You want to divvy up. Well, it is all right. I'm with you. Rockefeller has no right to the whole world. He ain't satisfied with that either. He wants a fence around it. The anarchists don't want to divvy up, Red. You get your misinformation. Oh, never mind, pard. I don't take stock in reforming the world. It's good enough for suckers. And as Holy Writ says, sir, blessed be they that neither sow nor hog. All things shall be given unto them. Them's wise word, me by. Moreover, sir, neither you nor me will live to see a change, so why should I worry me not about it? It takes all my wits to dodge work. It's disgraceful to labor, and it keeps me industriously busy, sir, to retain my honor and self-respect. Why, you know, pard, or perhaps you don't, Greenie, Columbus is a pretty tough dump, but d'ye think I worked the forespot there? Not me, no sirree. Didn't you tell Cosson you were in Sing Sing, not in Columbus? Course I did. What of it? Think I'd open my guts to my Lord Big Head? I've never been within 30 miles of the York pen. It was Hail Columbia all right, but that's between you and I, savvy. Don't want the screws to get next. Well, Red, how did you manage to keep away from work in Columbus? Manage? That's right, sir. 'Tis a word of profound significance, quite adequately descriptive of my humble endeavors. Just what I did, buddy. I managed, with a capital M. To good purpose, too, me by. Not a stroke of work in a forespot. How? I had Billy with me. That's me kid, you know, and a fine boy he was, too. I had him put a jigger on me, kept it up for 4 years. There's perseverance and industry for you, sir. What's putting a jigger on? A jigger? A jigger is... The noon whistle interrupts the explanation. With a friendly wink in my direction, the assistant takes his place in the line. In silence we march to the cell house, the measured footfall echoing a hollow threat in the walled quadrangle of the prison yard. Section 2. Conversation with Boston Red, young Davis, and occasional other prisoners helps to while away the tedious hours at work. But in the solitude of the cell, through the long winter evenings, my mind dwells in the outside world. Friends, the movement, the growing antagonisms, the bitter controversies between the Monstanier and the defendants of my act, fill my thoughts and dreams. By means of fictitious, but significant, names, Russian and German words written backward, and similar devices, the girl keeps me informed of the activities in our circles. I think admiringly, yet quite impersonally, of her strenuous militancy in championing my cause against all attacks. It is almost weak on my part, as a terrorist of Russian traditions, to consider her devotion deserving of particular commendation. She is a revolutionist. It is her duty to our common cause. Courage, whole-souled zeal, is very rare, it is true. The girl, Fedya, and a few others, hence the sad lack of general opposition in the movement to Most's attitude. But communications from comrades and unknown sympathizers germinate the hope of an approaching reaction against the campaign of denunciation. With great joy I trace the ascending revolutionary tendency in Der arme Teufel. I have persuaded the chaplain to procure the admission of the ingenious Robert Reitzel's publication. All the other periodicals addressed to me are regularly assigned to the wastebasket by orders of the deputy. The latter refused to make an exception even in regard to the Knights of Labor Journal. It is an incendiary anarchist sheet, he persisted. The arrival of the Teufel is a great event. What joy to catch sight of the paper snugly reposing between the legs of the cell table. Tenderly I pick it up, fondling the little visitor with quickened pulse. It is an animate, living thing, a ray of warmth in the dreary evenings. What cheering message does Reitzel bring me now? What beauties of his rich mind are hidden today in the quaint German type? Reverently, I unfold the roll. The uncut sheet opens in the 4th page, and the stirring paean of Hope's prophecy greets my eyes. Gruß and Alexander Berkman. For days the music of the dawn rings in my ears. Again and again recurs the refrain of faith and proud courage. Schon rüste schiste Freiheitsschar, so heigeln Entscheidungsschlacht. Es senden 22 Jahr, wir lächten einer stürmisch Nacht. But in the evening, when I return to the cell, reality lays its heavy hand upon my heart. The flickering of the candle accentuates the gloom, and I sit brooding over the interminable succession of miserable days and evenings and nights. The darkness gathers around the candle as I motionlessly watch its desperate struggle to be. Its dying agony, ineffectual and vain, presages my own doom, approaching, inevitable. Weaker and fainter grows the light, feebler, feebler, a last spasm in all its utter blackness. 3 bells. Lights out. Alas, mine did not last its permitted hour. The sun streaming into the many-windowed shop routs the night, and dispels the haze of the fire-spitting city. Perhaps my little candle with its bold defiance has shortened the reign of darkness. Who knows? Perhaps the brave, uneven struggle coaxed the sun out of his slumbers and hastened the coming of the day. The fancy lures me with its warming embrace, when suddenly the assistant startles me. "Say, pard, slept bad last night? You look boozy, me lad." Surprised at my silence, he admonishes me. "Young man, keep a stiff upper lip. Just look at me. Permit me to introduce to you, sir, a gentleman who has sounded the sharps and flats of life, and faced the most intricate network, sir, of iron bars between York and Frisco. Always acquitted himself with flying colors, sir, merely by being wise and preserving a stiff upper lip. See the point?" "What are you driving at, Red?" "They's a-goin' to move me down on your row, now that I'm in this here shop. Dunno how long I shall choose to remain, sir, in this magnificent hosiery establishment, but I see there's a vacant cell next yours, and I'm going to try and land there. Are you next, me bye? I'm going to learn you to be wise, sonny. I shall, so to speak, assume benevolent guardianship over you and your morals. Yes, sir, for you're my kid now, see?" "How? Your kid?" "How? My kid, of course. That's just what I mean. Any objections, sir, as the learned gentlemen of the law say in the honorable courts of the blind goddess? You bet your life she's blind. Blind as an owl on a sunny midsummer day. Not in your damn smoky city, though. Sun's ashamed here. But way down in my Kentucky home, down by the Suwannee River. Hold on, Red. You are romancing. You started to tell me about being your kid. Now explain. What do you mean by it?" "Really, He holds the unturned stocking suspended over the post, gazing at me with half-closed, cynical eyes, in which doubt struggles with wonder. In his astonishment, he has forgotten his wondered caution, and I warn him of the officer's watchful eye. "Really, Alex? Well, now, damn, I've seen something of this here round globe, some mighty strange sights, too, and there ain't many things to surprise me, let me tell you. But you do, Alex. Yes, me lad, you do. Hadn't had such a stunning blow since I first met Cigarette Jimmy in Oil City. Innocent? Well, I should snicker. He was for sure. Never heard a ghost story. Was 14, too. Well, I got him all right. Now he's doing a 5-bit down in Kansas. Poor kitty. Well, he certainly was a surprise. But many tempestuous billows of life, sir, have since flown into the shoreless ocean of time. Yes, sir, they have. But I never got such a stunner as you just gave me. Why, man, it's a body blow, a regular knocking out to my knowledge of the world, sir. To my settled estimate of the world's supercilious righteousness. Well, damn if I'd ever believe it. Say, how old are you, Alex? I'm over 22, Red. But what has all this to do with the question I asked you? Everything, me bye, everything. You're 22 and don't know what a kid is. Well, if it don't beat raw eggs, I don't know what it does. Green? Well, sir, it will be hard to find an adequate analogy to your inconsistent immaturity of mind. Aye, sir, I may well say of soul, except to compare it with the virtuous condition of green corn in the early summer moon. You know what moon is, don't you? He asks abruptly, with an evident effort to suppress a smile. I am growing impatient of his continuous avoidance of a direct answer, yet I cannot find it in my heart to be angry with him. The face expressive of a deep-felt conviction of universal wisdom, the eyes of humorous cynicism, and the ludicrous manner of mixing tramp slang with classic English all disarm my irritation. Besides, his droll chatter helps to while away the tedious hours at work. Perhaps I may also glean from this experienced old-timer some useful information regarding my plans of escape. Well, do you know a moon when you see it? Red inquires, chaffingly. I suppose I do. I'll bet you my corn dodger you don't. Sir, I can see by the tip of your olfactory organ that you are steeped in the slough of densest ignorance concerning the supreme science of moonology. Yes, sir, do not contradict me. I brook no skeptical attitude regarding my undoubted and proven perspicacity of the human nature. How's that for classic style, eh? That'll hold you down a moment, kid. As I was about to say when you interrupted... what? You didn't? Oh, what's the matter with you? Don't you go now and ruin the elegant flight of my rhetorical Pegasus with an insignificant interpolation of mere fact. None of your lip. Now, boy, and let me develop this sublime science of moonology before your wondering gaze. To begin with, sir, moonology is an exclusively aristocratic science. Not for the pretenders of Broad Street and Fifth Avenue, Nixie, but for the only genuine aristocracy of D Road, sir. For the pink of humankind. For the Yagmen, me lad, for yours truly and his clan. Yes, sirree. I don't know what you are talking about. I know you don't. That's why I'm going to chaperone you, kid. In plain English, sir, I shall endeavor to generate within you post-luminous comprehension a discriminate conception of the subject at issue, sir, by divesting my lingo of the least shadow of imperspicuity or ambiguity. Moonology, my Mark Twainian innocent, is the truly Christian science of loving your neighbor, provided he be a nice little boy. Understand now? How can you love a boy? Are you really so dumb? You're not a ref boy, I can see that. Red, if you'd drop your stilted language and talk plainly, I'd understand better. Thought you liked the classic. But you ain't long on lingo neither. How can a self-respecting gentleman explain himself to you? But I'll try. You love a boy as you love a poet sung heifer, see? Ever read Billy Shakespeare? Know the place? He's neither man nor woman, he's punk. Well, Billy knew. A punk's a boy that'll... What? Yes, sir. Give himself to a man. Now we's a talkin' plain. Savvy now, innocent abroad. I don't believe what you are telling me, Red. You don't believe? What the devil? Damn me soul to hell. What do you mean? You don't believe? Gee, look out. The look of bewilderment on his face startles me. In his excitement, he had raised his voice almost to a shout, attracting the attention of the guard, who is now hastening towards us. Who's talking here? He demands, suspiciously eyeing the knitters. You, Davis? No, sir. Who was them? Nobody here, Mr. Colson. Yes, they was. I heard hollerin'. Oh, that was me, Davis replies, with a quick glance at me. I hit my elbow against the machine. Let me see it. The guard scrutinizes the bared arm. Well, he says doubtfully, it don't look sore. It hurt, and I hollered. The officer turns to my assistant. Has he been talkin' ready? I don't think he was, Captain. Pleased with the title, Coulson smiles at Red and passes on, with a final warning to the boy. Don't you let me catch you at it again, you hear? During the rest of the day, the overseers exercise particular vigilance over our end of the shop. But emboldened by the increased din of the new knitting machinery, Red soon takes up the conversation again. Screws can't hear us now, he whispers, except they's close to us. But watch your lips, boy. The damn bull's got sharp lamps. And don't scare me again like that. Why, you talk so foolish. You make me plumb forget myself. Say, that kid is all to the good, ain't he? What's his name, Johnny Davis? Yes, a wise kid, all right. Just like me own Billy I told you about. He was no punk, either. And don't you forget it. True as steel, he was. Stuck to me through my 4-spot like the bark to a tree. Say, what's that you said? You don't believe what I endeavored so conscientiously, sir, to drive into your noodle? You was only kidding me, wasn't you? No, Red, I meant it quite seriously. You're spinning ghost stories, or whatever you call it. I don't believe in this kid love. And why don't you believe it? Why, well, I don't think it's possible. What isn't possible? You know what I mean. I don't think there can be such intimacy between those of the same sex. Ho ho, that's your point? Why, Alex, you're more of a damn fool than a casual observer, sir, would be apt to postulate. You don't believe it possible, you don't, eh? Well, you just give me half a chance and I'll show you. Red, don't you talk to me like that, I burst out angrily. If you... Easy, me bye, he interrupts good-naturedly. Don't get on your high horse. No harm meant, Alex, you're a good boy, but you just rattle me with your crazy talk. Why, you're bugs to say it's impossible. Man alive, the dump's chock full of punks. It's done in every prison, and on the road, everywhere. Lord, if I had a plunk for every time I got the best of a kid, I'd rival Rockefeller, sir. I would, me bye. You actually confess to such terrible practices? You're disgusting, but I don't really believe it, Red. Confess hell. I confess nothing. Terrible, disgusting. You talk like a man up a tree, you holy sky pilot. Are there no women on the road? Pshaw, who cares for a heifer when you can get a kid? Women are no good. I wouldn't look at him when I have my prushum. Oh, it is quite evident, sir, you have not delved into the esoteric mysteries of moonology, nor tasted the mellifluous fruit on the forbidden tree of... Oh, quit. Well, you'll know better before your time's up, me virtuous sonny. For several days my assistant fails to appear in the shop on account of illness. He has been excused by the doctor, the guard informs me. I miss his help at work. The hours drag heavier for lack of Red's companionship. Yet I am gratified by his absence. His cynical attitude towards women and sex morality has roused in me a spirit of antagonism. The panegyrics of boy love are deeply offensive to my instincts. The very thought of the unnatural practice revolts and disgusts me. But I find solace in the reflection that Red's insinuations are pure fabrication. No credence is to be given them. Man, a reasonable being, could not fall to such depths. He cannot be guilty of such unspeakably vicious practices. Even the lowest outcast must not be credited with such perversion, such depravity. I should really take the matter more calmly. The assistant is a queer fellow. He is merely teasing me. These things are not credible. Indeed, I don't believe they are possible. And even if they were, no human being would be capable of such iniquity. I must not suffer Red's chaffing to disturb me. End of section 17. Section 18 of Prison Memoirs of an Anarchist by Alexander Berkman. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recording by Kwame Genov. youtube.com/c/KWAMEGENOVV. The Route Sub Rosa. March 4th, 1893. Girl and twin. I am writing with despair in my heart. I was taken to Pittsburgh as a witness in the trial of Nold and Bauer. I had hoped for an opportunity, you understand, friends. It was a slender thread, but I clung to it desperately, prepared to stake everything on it. It proved a broken straw. Now I am back, and I may never leave this place alive. I was bitterly disappointed not to find you in the courtroom. I yearned for the sight of your faces, but you were not there, nor anyone else of our New York comrades. I knew what it meant. You are having a hard struggle to exist. Otherwise, perhaps something could be done to establish friendly relations between Rakhmetov and Mr. Gibop. It would require an outlay beyond the resources of our own circle. Others cannot be approached in this matter. Nothing remains but the inside developments, a terribly slow process. This is all the hope I can hold out to you, dear friends. You'll think it quite negligible, yet it is the sole ray that has again and again kindled life in moments of utmost darkness. I did not realize the physical effects of my stay here. It is 5 months now, till my return from court. I suppose the excitement of being on the outside galvanized me for the nonce. My head was a whirl. I could not collect my thoughts. The wild hope possessed me. Pobeg. The click of the steel, as I was handcuffed to the deputy, struck my deaf nail. The unaccustomed noise of the streets, the people and loud voices in the courtroom, the scenes of the trial, all absorbed me in the moment. It seemed to me as if I were a spectator, interested, but personally unconcerned in the surroundings. And these, too, were far away, of a strange world in which I had no part. Only when I found myself alone in the cell, the full significance of the lost occasion was borne in upon me with crushing force. But why sadden you? There is perhaps a cheerier side. now that Nold and Bauer are here. I have not seen them yet, but their very presence, the circumstance that somewhere within these walls there are comrades, men who, like myself, suffer for an ideal, the thought holds a deep satisfaction for me. It brings me closer, in a measure, to the environment of political prisoners in Europe. Whatever the misery and torture of their daily existence, the politicals, even in Siberia, breathe the atmosphere of solidarity, of appreciation. What courage and strength there must be for them and the inspiration radiated by a common cause. Conditions here are entirely different. Both inmates and officers are at loss to class me. They have never known political prisoners. That one should sacrifice or risk his life with no apparent personal motives is beyond their comprehension, almost beyond their belief. It is a desert of sordidness that constantly threatens to engulf one. I would gladly exchange places with our comrades in Siberia. The former Podpoelnaya was suspended because of the great misfortune that befell my friend Wingy, of whom I wrote to you before. This dove will be flown by Mr. Tirumshchik, an old soldier who really sympathizes with Wingy. I believe they served in the same regiment. He is a kindly man who hates his despicable work, but there's a family at home, a sick wife. You know the old, weak-kneed tale. I had a hint from him the other day. He is being spied upon. It is dangerous for him to be seen at my cell, and so forth. It is all quite true, but what he means is that a little money would be welcome. You know how to manage the matter. Leave no traces. I hear the felt-soled step. It's the soldier. I bid my birdie a hasty goodbye. Sasha. End of section 18.
Section 19 of Prison Memoirs of an Anarchist. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit librivox.org. Recording by On Hiatus, Stockport, United Kingdom. Prison Memoirs of an Anarchist by Alexander Berkman. Part 2, Chapter 12, Zuchthausblöden. 1. A dense fog rises from the broad bosom of the Ohio. It ensnares the riverbanks in its mysterious embrace, veils tree and rock with sombre mist, and mocks the sun with angry frown. Within the house of death is felt the chilling breath, and all is quiet and silent in the iron cages. Only an occasional knocking as on metal disturbs the stillness. I listen intently. Nearer and more audible seem the sounds, hesitating and apparently intentional. I am involuntarily reminded of the methods of communication practiced by Russian politicals, and I strive to detect some meaning in the tapping. It grows clearer as I approach the back wall of the cell, and instantly I am aware of a faint murmur in the privy. Is it fancy, or did I hear my name? "Hello?" I call into the pipe. The knocking ceases abruptly. I hear a suppressed, hollow voice. "That you, Alec?" "Yes. Who is it?" "Never mind. You must be deaf not to hear me calling you all this time. Take that cotton out of your ears." "I didn't know you could talk this way." "You didn't? Well, you know now. Them's empty pipes, no standing water, see? Fine to talk. Oh, damn it! The words are lost in the gurgle of rushing water. Presently the flow subsides, and the knocking is resumed. I bend over the privy. "Hello? Hello? That you, Alec?" "Get off that line, you jabbering idiot!" someone shouts into the pipe. "Lay down there! Take that trap out of the hole! Quit your fooling, hoss thief! Hey, boys, stop that now! That's me, fellas. It's Bob, hoss thief Bob. I'm talking business. Keep quiet now, will ya? Are you there, Alec? Yes? Well, pay no attention to them dubs. 'Twas that crazy Southside Slim that turned the water on." "Who you calling crazy, damn you?" a voice interrupts. "Oh, lay down, Slim, will ya? Who said you was crazy? Nay, you're bugs. Hey, Alec, you there?" "Yes, Bob." "Oh, got me name, have ya?" "Yes, I'm Bob, hoss thief Bob. Make no mistake when you see me. I'm Big Bob the hoss thief. Can you hear me? It's you, Alec?" Yes. Sure it's you? Got to tell you something. What's your number?" "A7. Right ya. What cell?" "6K. And this is me, Big Bob, and—" "Windbag, Bob," a heavy bass comments from above. "Shut up, Curly. I'm on the line. I'm in 6F, Alec. Top tier. Call me up any time I'm in. Ha." You see, pipes running up and down, and you can talk to any range you want, but always to the same cell as you're in. Cell 6, understand? Now, if you want to talk to cell 14, to Shorty, you know. I don't want to talk to Shorty. I don't know him, Bob. Yes, you do. You listen to what I tell you, Alec, and you'll be all right. That's me talking, Big Bob, see? Now, I say, if you like to choose a rag with Shorty, you just tell me. Tell Brother Bob, and he'll connect you, all right? Are you on? Know who's Shorty? No. You oughta. That's Carl. Carl Nold. Know him, don't you? What? I cry in astonishment. Is it true, Bob? Is Nold up there on your gallery? Sure thing. Cell 14. Why didn't you say so at once? You've been talking 10 minutes now. Did you see him? What's your hurry, Alec? You can't see him. Not just now, anyway. Perhaps by, maybe. There's no hurry, Alec. You got plenty of time. A few years, rather. Ha ha. Hey there, horse thief. Quit that. I recognize Curly's deep bass. What do you want to make the kid feel bad for? No harm meant, Curly, Bob returns. I was just joshing him a bit. Well, quit it. You don't mind it, Alec, do you? I hear Bob again, his tones softened. I didn't mean to hurt your feelings. I'm your friend, Alec. You can bet your corn dodger on that. Say, I've got something for you from Shorty. I mean Carl, you savvy? What have you, Bob? Nixie through the hole. Ain't safe. I'm coffee boy on this 'ere range. I'll sneak round to you in the morning when I go to fetch me can of bootleg. Now, jiggaroo. Screw's coming. Footnote 37. Jiggaroo. Look out. End of footnote. 2. The presence of my comrades is investing existence with interest and meaning. It has brought to me a breeze from the atmosphere of my former environment. It is stirring the graves where lie my soul's dead into renewed life and hope. The secret exchange of notes lends colour to the routine. It is like a fresh mountain streamlet joyfully rippling through a stagnant swamp. At work in the shop, my thoughts are engrossed with our correspondence. Again and again I review the arguments, elucidating to my comrades the significance of my attentat. They too are inclined to exaggerate the importance of the purely physical result. The exchange of views gradually ripens our previously brief and superficial acquaintance into closer intimacy. There is something in Carl Nold that especially attracts me. I sense in him a congenial spirit. His spontaneous frankness appeals to me. My heart echoes his grief at the realization of most unpardonable behaviour. But the ill-concealed antagonism of Bauer is irritating. It reflects his desperate clinging to the shattered idol. Presently, however, a better understanding begins to manifest itself. The big, jovial German has earned my respect. He braved the anger of the judge by consistently refusing to betray the man who aided him in distribution of the anarchist leaflet among the homestead workers. On the other hand, both Carl and Henry appreciate my efforts on the witness stand to exonerate them from complicity in my act. Their condemnation as acknowledged anarchists was, of course, a foregone conclusion, and I am gratified to learn that neither of my comrades had entertained any illusions concerning the fate that awaited them. Indeed, both have expressed surprise that the maximum revenge of the law was not visited upon them. Their philosophical attitude exerts a soothing effect upon me. Carl even voices satisfaction that the sentence of 5 years will afford him a long-needed vacation from many years of ceaseless factory toil. He is facetiously anxious lest capitalist industry be handicapped by the loss of such a splendid carpenter as Henry, whom he good-naturedly chaffs on the separation from his newly affianced. The evening hours have ceased to drag. There is pleasure and diversion in the correspondence. The notes have grown into bulky letters, daily cementing our friendship. We compare views, exchange impressions, and discuss prison gossip. I learn the history of the movement of the Twin Cities, the personnel of anarchist circles, and collect a fund of anecdotes about Albrecht, the philosophic old shoemaker whose diminutive shop in Allegheny is the centre of the radical intelligentsia. With deep contrition, Bauer confesses how narrowly he escaped the role of my executioner. My unexpected appearance in their midst, at the height of the homestead struggle, had waked suspicion among the Allegheny comrades. They sent an inquiry to most, whose reply proved a warning against me. Unknown to me, Bauer shared the room I occupied in Nold's house. Through the long hours of the night he lay awake with revolver cocked. At the first sign of a suspicious move on my part, he had determined to kill me. The personal tenor of our correspondence is gradually broadening into the larger scope of socio-political theories, methods of agitation, and applied tactics. The discussions, prolonged and often heated, absorb our interest. The bulky notes necessitate greater circumspection. The difficulty of procuring writing materials assumes a serious aspect. Every available scrap of paper is exhausted. Margins of stray newspapers and magazines have been penciled on, the contents repeatedly erased, and the frayed tatters microscopically covered with ink. Even an occasional flyleaf from library books has been sacrilegiously forced to leave its covers, and every evidence of its previous association dexterously removed. The problem threatens to terminate our correspondence and fills us with dismay. But the genius, our faithful postman, of proud horse-thieving proclivities, proves equal to the occasion. Bob constitutes himself our commissary, designating the broom shop in which he is employed as the base of our future supplies. The unexpected affluence fills us with joy. The big rolls requisitioned by Horse Thief exclude the fear of famine. The smooth, yellow wrapping paper affords the luxury of larger and more legible chirography. The pride of sudden wealth germinates ambitious projects. We speculate on the possibility of converting our correspondence into a magazinelet and wax warm over the proposed lists of readers. Before long, the first issue of the Zuchthausbluthen, footnote 38, Zuchthausbluthen, Prison Blossoms, end of footnote, is greeted with the encouraging approval of our sole subscriber, whose contribution surprises us in the form of a rather creditable poem on the last blank page of the publication. Elated at the happy acquisition, we unanimously crown him Meistersinger, with dominion over the department of poetry. Soon we plan more pretentious issues. The outward size of the publication is to remain the same, 3 by 5 inches, but the number of pages is to be enlarged, each issue to have a different editor to ensure equality of opportunity. The readers to serve as contributing editors. The appearance of the Bluthen is to be regulated by the time required to complete the circle of readers, whose identity is to be masked with certain initials to protect them against discovery. Henceforth, Bauer, physically a giant, is to be known as G. Because of my medium stature, I shall be designated with the letter M, and Nold as the smallest by K. Footnote 39. K. Initial of the German Klein, small. End of footnote. The poet, his history somewhat shrouded in mystery, is christened D for Dichter. M, K, G are to act in turn as editor-in-chief, whose province it is to start the Bluthen on its way, each reader contributing to the issue till it is returned to the original editor to enable him to read and comment upon his fellow contributors. The publication, its contents growing transit, is finally to reach the second contributor, upon whom will devolve the editorial management of the following issue. The unique arrangement proves a source of much pleasure and recreation. The little magazine is rich in contents and varied in style. The diversity of handwriting heightens the interest and stimulates speculation on the personality of our increasing readers' contributors. In the arena of the diminutive publication there rages the conflict of contending social philosophies. Here a political essay rubs elbow with a witty anecdote, and a dissertation on the nature of things is interspersed with prison small talk and personal reminiscence. Flashes of unstudied humour and unconscious rivalry of orthography lend peculiar charm to the unconventional editorials, and waft a breath of Josh Billings into the manuscript pages. But the success of the Zuchthausbluthen soon discovers itself a veritable Frankenstein, which threatens the original foundation and aims of the magazinelet. The popularity of joint editorship is growing at the cost of unity and tendency. The bard's astonishing facility at versification, coupled with his Jules Vernean imagination, causes us grave anxiety, lest his untamable Pegasus traverse the limits of our paper supply. The appalling warning of the commissary that the improvident drain upon his resources is about to force him on a strike imperatively calls a halt. We are deliberating policies of retrenchment and economy, when unexpectedly the arrival of 2 homestead men suggests an auspicious solution. 3. The presence of Hugh F. Dempsey and Robert J. Beatty, prominent in the Knights of Labour organisation, offers opportunity for propaganda among workers representing the more radical element of American labour. Accused of poisoning the food served to the strike breakers in the mills, Dempsey and Beatty appear to me men of unusual type. Be they innocent or guilty, the philosophy of their methods is in harmony with revolutionary tactics. Labour can never be unjust in its demands. Is it not the creator of all wealth in the world? Every weapon may be employed to return the despoiled people into its rightful ownership. Is not the terrorizing of scabbery and ultimately of the capitalist exploiters an effective means of aiding the struggle? Therefore Dempsey and Beatty deserve a claim. Morally certain of their guilt, I respect them the more for it, though I am saddened by their denial of complicity in the scheme of wholesale extermination of the scabs. The blackleg is also human, it is true, and desires to live, but one should starve rather than turn traitor to the cause of his class. Moreover, the individual, or any number of them, cannot be weighed against the interests of humanity. Infinite patience weaves the threads that bring us in contact with the imprisoned labour leaders. In the ceaseless duel of vital need against stupidity and malice, caution and wit are sharpened by danger. The least indiscretion, the most trifling negligence means discovery, disaster. But perseverance and intelligent purpose conquer. By the aid of the faithful horse thief, communication with Dempsey and Beatty is established. With the aggressiveness of strong conviction, I present to them my views dwelling on the historic role of the attentater and the social significance of conscious individual protest. The discussion ramifies, the interest aroused soon transcending the limits of my paper supply. Presently I am involved in a correspondence with several men, whose questions and misinterpretations regarding my act I attempt to answer and correct with individual notes. But the method proves an impossible tax on our opportunities, and KGM finally decide to publish an English edition of the Zuchthausbluthen. The German magazine-let is suspended, and in its place appears the first issue of the Prison Blossoms. End of section 19. Recording by On Hiatus, Stockport, United Kingdom.
Section 20 of Prison Memoirs of an Anarchist. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Anthony Gergis of the Tide Pod Podcast. Prison Memoirs of an Anarchist by Alexander Berkman. Part 2, Chapter 13, Judas. Hey there, Sporty. My assistant greets me in the shop. Stand treat on this festive occasion. Yes, Red, have a chew, I reply with a smile, handing him my fresh plug of tobacco. His eyes twinkle with mischievous humor as he scrutinizes my changed suit of dark gray. The larger part of the plug swelling out his cheek, he flings to me the remnant across the table, remarking, "Don't care for it. Take back your chew. I'll keep my honor. Your plug, I mean, Sonny. A gentleman of my eminence, sir. A natural-born navigator on the high seas of social life. Are you on me, by? A gentleman, I repeat, sir, whose canoe the mutations of all that is human have chucked on this dry, thrice-jammed dry latitude, sir. This noxious plague spot of civilization. Say, kid, what the hell am I talking about? Damn if I ain't clean forgot." "I'm sure I don't know, Red." "Like hell you don't. It's your glad duds, kid, offering me a chew of tobacco. Christ, I'm dying for a drop of booze. This magnificent occasion deserves a wedding, sir. And say, Alec, it won't hurt your beauty to stretch them sleeves of yours a bit. You look like a scarecrow in them high-water pants. Ain't old Sandy the kin of Skinner's, though." "Whom do you mean, Red?" "Who I mean, you idiot, but that skunk of a warden, the Honorable Captain Edward S. Wright. If you please, sir, captain of old rotten old punks. That's what he is. You ask the screws. He's never smelt powder. Why, he's been here most of his life. But some of the screws been here longer, born here, damn 'em. Couldn't pull 'em out of there with those steam engine, you couldn't. They can tell you all about the captain, though. Old Sandy didn't have a plugged nickel to his name when you come here. Now the damn stomach robber is rich. Regular gold mine this dump for him. He only gets lousy $5,000 per year. Got big family and keeps carriages and servants. See, and I can't afford to go to Europe every year. And got a pile in the bank to boot. All the scurvy $5,000 a year. Good manager, ain't he? A regular church member, too. Damn his rotten soul to hell.
Is he as bad as all that, Red?
Is he? A hypocrite dyed in the wool, that's what he is. Plays the humanitarian racket. He had a great deal to say in the papers. That's why I didn't believe the brutal way Zimes was punished by the Homestead Colonel. What's his name? Colonel Streeter of the 10th Pennsylvania. That's the cur. He hung up Private Imes by the thumbs till the poor little boy was almost dead. For nothing, too. Suppose you remember, don't you? Imes had called for 3 cheers for the man who shot Frick, and they pretty near killed him for it, and then drummed him out of the regiment, with his head half shaved. It was a most barbarous thing. And that damn Sandy swore in the papers he didn't believe in such things, and all the while the lying murderer is doing it himself. Not a day but some poor con is cuffed up in the hole. That's the kind of humanitarian he is. It makes me wild to think on it. Why, kid, I even get a big excited and forget that you, young sir, are attuned to the dulcet symphonies of classic English. But whenever that skunk of a warden is the subject of conversation, sir, even my usually imperturbable serenity of spirit and tranquil stoicism are not equal to patience on a monument smile at grief. Watch me, sonny. That's yours truly spilin'. Why, look at them dingy rags of yours. I like you better in the striped duds. They give you the hand-me-downs of that nigger that went out yesterday and changed you the books with a brand new suit. See where Sandy gets his slice, eh? And say, kid, how long are you here?
About 8 months, Red.
They beat you out of 2 months, all right. Suppose they obey their own rules. Nitzer, you are aware, my precious lamb, that you are entitled to discard your polychromic vestments of zebra hue after your sojourn of 6 months in the benevolent dump. I bet that fresh fish at the looping machine there came up here some days ago. He won't be kept waiting more than 6 months for his black clothes.
I glance in the direction of the recent arrival. He is a slender man with swarthy complexion and quick-shifting eye. The expression of guilty cunning is repelling.
Who is that man? I whisper to the assistant.
Like him, don't you?
Permit me, sir, to introduce you to the handiwork of his maker, a mealy-mouthed, oily-lipped, scurvy gay cat, a yellow cur, a sniveling, fawning stool, a filthy, oozy sneak, a snake in the grass whose very presence, sir, is a mortal insult to a self-respecting member of my clan, Mr. Patrick Gallagher, of the Honorable Pinkerton family, sir.
Gallagher, I ask in astonishment. The informer who denounced Dempsey and Beatty?
The very same. The dirty snitch that got those fellows railroaded here for 7 years. Dempsey was a fool to bunch up with such a vermin as Gallagher and Davison. He was master workman of some district of the Knights' Labor. Why in hell didn't he get his own men to do the job? Goes to work and hires a brace of gay cats. Sent him to the scab mills, you scabby. A sling hash for the blacklegs. And keep him posted on the goings-on, see? Suppose you have oriented yourself, sir, concerning the developments in the culinary experiment.
Yes, croton oil is supposed to have been used to make the scab sick with diarrhea.
Make him sick? Why, me by scores of him croaked. I am surprised, sir, to use such a vulgar term as diarrhea. You offend my aestheticism. The learned gentleman who delved deeply into the bowels of the earth and man, sir, ascribed the sudden and phenomenal increase of unmentionable human obligations to nature. The mysterious and extravagant popularity of the houses of ill odor, sir, the automatic obedience to their call, as due entirely to the dumping of a lot of old lousy bums, sir, into filthy corridors or to impurities of the liquid supply, or to, pardon my frankness, sir, to intestinal effeminacy, which in flaccid excitability persisted in ill-timed relaxation, unseemly in well-mannered Christians. Some future day, sir, they may well arise a poet to glorify with beauteous epic the heroic days of the modern bull run, and I can tell you, laddie, they run and kept running top and bottom, or some lyric bard may put to a hudibristic verse. Watch me climbing the Parnassus, kid, the poetic feat, the numbers, the assonance, the strain of the inspiring days when croton oil was king. Yes, sirree, for yours truly, me hand in such pies, and moreover, sir, I make it an invariable rule of gentlemanly behavior to keep my snout out of other people's biz.
Dempsey may be innocent, Red.
Well, the jury don't think so, but there's no telling, honest to God. Alec, that round scab of a Gallagher has the cast pale hue of a resolution. If I may borrow old Billy Shake's slang, sir, over me generally settled convictions, you know, in the abundant plenitude of my heterogeneous experience with the sorts of conditions of rats and gay cats, sir, fortified by a natural genius of no mean order of 1859 vintage, damn if I ever run across such an acute form of confessionist as manifested by the loud of the looping machine here. You know what he done yesterday? What? Sent for the district attorney and made another confess. Really? How do you know? Night Screw's a partner friend of mine, kid. I stands, you see. The mixer regular yahoo can't hardly spell his own name. He daily requisitions upon my humble but abundant intelligence, sir, to make out his reports. Catch on, eh? I've never earned a handout with more dignified probity, sir. It's a cinch. Last night he give me a great slice of corn dodger. It was A1, I tell you, and 2 hard-boiled eggs and half a tomato, juicy and luscious, sir. Didn't I enjoy it, though? Make your mouth water, eh, kid? Well, if you be good time, and you have can of what I got, I'll divvy up with you. Well, don't stand there and gape at me like a wooden engine, as the unexpected revelation of my magnanimous generosity deprived you of your articulate utterance, sir. The sly wink with which he emphasizes the offer, and his sudden serious manner affect me unpleasantly. With pretended indifference, I decline to share his delicacies. You need those little extras for yourself, Red, I explain. You told me you suffer from indigestion. A change of diet now and then will do you good. But you haven't finished telling me about the new confession of Gallagher. Oh, you're a sly one, Alec. No flies on you. But it's all right. Me buy, maybe. I can do something for you someday. I'm your friend, Alec. Count on me. But that mud of a Gallagher, yes sirree, made another confession. Damn if it ain't his third one. Ever hear such a thing? I got it straight from the screw, all right. I can't take the damn snitch out. Undeservedly, I avow, sir, that incomprehensible vacillations of the honorable gentleman puzzle me noodle, and are calculated to disturb the repose of a right-thinking yag in the silken reap of Morpheus. What is game, anyhow? Shall we diagnose the peculiar mental menstruation as what's your learned opinion? My illustrations, colleague, eh? What you grinning for, Four-Eyes? It's a serious matter, sir. A highly instructive phenomenon of intellectual vacuity, impregnated with the pernicious virus of Pinkerston-ism, sir, and transmuted in the alembic of Carnegie alchemy, a judicious injection of persuasive gems by the sagacious journal-consuls of the House of Dempsey, and lo, 3 brand new confessions, mutually contradictory and exclusive. Does that strike you in the spot, sonny? In the second confession, he retracted his accusations against Dempsey. What's the third about, Red? Retracts his attraction me by. Guess why, Alec? I suppose he was paid to reaffirm his original charges. You're not far off. After that beauty of a Judas cleared the man, Sandy noted Reed and Docs. Them smart guys, all right. The attorneys of the Carnegie Company to interpret Madame Justica, sir, in a manner. I know, Red, I interrupt him. They are lawyers who prosecuted me. Even in court, they were giving directions to the district attorney and openly whispering to him questions to be asked the witnesses. He was just a figurehead and a tool for them, and it sounded so ridiculous when he told the jury that he was not in the service of any individual or corporation, but that he acted solely as an officer of the Commonwealth, charged with the sacred duty of protecting its interests in my prosecution. And all the time, he was the mouthpiece of Frick's lawyers. Hold on, kid. I don't get a chance to squeeze a word in edgewise when you start, John. Think you're on the platform, hard-graying, honk-headed crowd? You can't convert me, so save your breath, man. I shouldn't want to convert you, Red. You are intelligent, but a hopeless case. You are not the kind that could be useful to the cause. Glad you're next. Got me sized up all right, eh? Well, me saintly bye. I'm Johnny on the spot to serve the cause all right, and the cause is me with a big M, see? A fellow foot and not in a look for the number 1. I give it to you straight, Alec. What's them high-flown notions of yours oppressed humanity and suffering people fiddlesticks? There you go and shove your damn neck into the noose for the strikers. What have them fellows ever done for you, eh? Tell me that. They don't do a darn thing for you. Catch me swinging for the peel pull. The cattle don't deserve any better than they get, that's what I say. I don't want to discuss these questions with you, Red. You'll never understand anyhow. Get off now, you voice a sentiment, sir, that my adequate appreciation of myself will prompt me to resent to the field of honor, sir. But the unworthy spirit of acribuity is totally foreign to my nature, sir, and I shall preserve the blessed meekness of so becoming the true Christian, and shall follow the bidding of my master, my humbly offering of the other cheek, for the chaw of the weed I gave you. Dig down into your poke, kid. I hand him the remnant of my tobacco, remarking, You've lost the thread of our conversation as usual, Red. You said the warden sent for the Carnegie lawyers after Gallagher had recounted his original confession. Well, what did they do? Don't know what they done, but I told you that Martin had sent for the district attorney the same day and signed a third confession. Well, damn, she was tickled to death of the cause. He ceases abruptly. His quick, short coughs warn me of danger, accompanied by the deputy of the shop officer. The warden is making the rounds of the machines, pausing here and there to examine the work and listen to the request of a prisoner. The youthfully sparkling eyes of a striking contrast to the sedate manner and seamed features framed in grayish white. Approaching the table, he greets us with a benign smile. Good morning, boys. Casting a glance at my assistant, the warden inquires. Your time must be up soon, Red. Been out and back again, Captain, the officer laughs. Yes, he is. Back home. The thin feminine accents of the deputy sound sarcastic. Didn't like it outside, Red, the warden sneers. A flush darkens the face of the assistant. There's more skunks out there than him, he retorts. The captain frowns. The deputy lifts a warning finger, but the warden laughs slightly and continues on his rounds. We work in silence for a while. Red looks restive. His eyes stealthily follow the departing official. Presently, he whispers, See me hand it in to him, Alex? He knows I'm on to him, all right. Didn't he look mad enough, though? Thought he'd burst. Sobered him up a bit. Pipe his lamps, kid. Yes, very bright eyes. Bright eyes your grandmother. Dope, that's what the matter is. Think I get off as easy if it wasn't chock full of this stuff? I know it ain't the minute I laid my eyes on him. I can tell by the shining glimmers and the slick smile of his when he's feeling good. Know the signals, all right. Always feeling fine when he's hit the pipe. That's the time you can get anything you want from him. Next time you see that smirk on him, hit him for something. He'll hand it to you right there. He's going down to the socks first thing you know. Yes, we need more help. Why don't you ask him? Me? Me ask favor of the damn swine? Not of your tiny type. You don't catch me with a vouchsafe the high and mighty, sir, the opportunity. All right, Red. I won't ask him either. I don't give a damn. For all I care, Alex, and well confidently speaking, sir, there might encourse this presence hoisery and the infamable dehinance of the nibs, which is, of course, if I may venture my humble opinion, young sir, sufficiently generous in his expansiveness to regard the rugosity of his stocking turned inside out, sir. Do you follow the argument, me by? With difficulty, Red, I reply with a smile. What are you really talking about? I do wish you'd speak plainer. You do ya? And maybe you don't. Got to the train, you rag gradual, so to speak. It's only duty is pushin'. We's gotta get out of help, you see. I ain't gonna kill myself working here like a nigga. I'll quit first. Do you think The shop officer is returning. Damn your imprudence, Red, he shouts at the assistant. Why don't you keep that tongue of yours in check? Why, Mr. Caution, what's the trouble? You know damn well what's the trouble. You made the old man mad clean enough. You ought to know better than that. He was nice as pie till he opened that big trap of yours. Everything went wrong then. You gave me the dickens about that pile you got lying round here. Why don't you take over the roopers, Burke? They have not been turned yet, I reply. What do you say? Not turned, he bristles. What in the hell you fellas doing, I'd like to know? We're doing more than we should, Red retorts defiantly. Shut up now and get a move on, you. On the rotten grub they feed us, the assistant persists. You better shut up, Red. Then give us some help. I will like hell. The whistle sounds the dinner hour. End of section 20. Recording by Anthony Gergis of the Tide Pod Podcast.
Section 21 of Prison Memoirs of an Anarchist. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Mike Botez. Prison Memoirs of an Anarchist by Alexander Berkman. Chapter 19. The Dip. For a week, Boston Red is absent from work. My best efforts seem ineffectual in the face of the increasing mountain of unturned hosiery, and the officer grows more irritable and insistent. But the fear of clogging the industrial wheel presently forces him to give me assistance, and a dapper young man keen-eyed and nervous, takes the vacant place. "He's a dip," Johnny Davis whispers to me. "A top-notcher," he adds admiringly. I experience a tinge of resentment at the equality implied by the forced association. I have never before come in personal contact with a professional thief, and I entertain the vaguest ideas concerning his class. But they are not producers, hence parasites, who deliberately prey upon society, upon the poor mostly. There can be nothing in common between me and this man. The new helper's conscious superiority is provoking. His distant manner piques my curiosity. How unlike his scornful mien and proudly independent bearing is my youthful impression of a thief. Vividly I remember the red-headed Kolya as he was taken from the classroom by a fierce gendarme. The boys had been missing their lunches, and Kolya confessed to the theft. We ran after the prisoner, and he hung his head and looked frightened, and so pale I could count each freckle on his face. He did not return to school, and I wondered what had become of him. The terror in his eyes haunted my dreams, the brown spots on his forehead shaping themselves into fiery letters, spelling the fearful word "Vor." "That's a snap," the helper's voice breaks in on my reverie. He speaks in well modulated tones, the accents nasal and decided. "You needn't be afraid to talk," he adds patronizingly. I am not afraid. I impatiently resent the insinuation. Why should I be afraid of you? Not of me, of the officer I meant. I am not afraid of him either. Well, then, let's talk about something. It will help while away the time, you know. His cheerful friendliness smooths my ruffled temper. The correct English, in striking contrast with the peculiar language of my former assistant, surprises me. "I am sorry," he continues, "they gave you such a long sentence, Mr. Bergman, but—" "How do you know my name?" I interrupt. "You have just arrived." "They call me Lightning Al," he replies, with a tinge of pride. "I'm here only 3 days, but a fellow in my line can learn a great deal in that time. I had you pointed out to me." "What do you call your line? What are you here for?" For a moment he is silent. With surprise I watch his face blush darkly. "You're a dead give-away. Oh, excuse me, Mr. Bergman." He corrects himself. "I sometimes lapse into lingo under provocation, you know. I meant to say it's easy to see that you are not next to the way, not familiar, I mean, with such things. You should never ask a man what he is in for." "Why not?" "Well, you are ashamed." "Not a bit of it. Ashamed to fall, perhaps. I mean to be caught at it. It's no credit to a gun's rep, his reputation, you understand. But I'm proud of the jobs I've done. I'm pretty slick, you know." "But you don't like to be asked why you were sent here." "Well, it's not good manners to ask such questions." "Against the ethic of the trade, I suppose." How sarcastic we can be, Mr. Bergman. But it's true. It's not the ethics. And isn't a trade either. It's a profession. Oh, you may smile, but I'd rather be a gun, a professional, I mean, than one of your stupid factory hands. They are honest, though, honest producers, while you're a thief. Oh, there's no sting in that word for me. I take pride in being a thief. And what's more, I am an A number one gun. You see the point? The best dip in the States. A pickpocket, stealing nickels of passengers on the street cars and— Me? A hell of a lot you know about it. Take me for such a small fry, do you? I work only on race tracks. You call it work? Sure, damn hard work too. Takes more brains than a whole shopful of your honest producers can show. And you prefer that to being honest. Do I? I spend more on gloves than a bricklayer makes in a year. Think I'm so dumb I have to slave all week for a few dollars? But you spent most of your life in prison. Not by a long shot. A real good gun's always got his full money planted. I mean, some ready coin in case of trouble. And a smart lawyer will spring you most every time. Beat the case, you know. I've never seen the fly cop you couldn't fix if you got enough dough. And most judges, too. Of course, now and then the best of us may fall, but it don't happen very often, and it's all in the game. The whole life is game, Mr. Bergman, and everyone's got his graft. Do you mean there are no honest men? I ask angrily. Sure, I'm just as honest as Rockefeller or Carnegie, only they got the law with them. And I work harder than they, I'll bet you on that. I've got to eat, haven't I? Of course, he adds thoughtfully. If I could be sure of my bread and butter, perhaps. The passing overseer smiles at the noted pickpocket, inquiring pleasantly, "How you doing, Al?" "Tip top, Mr. Carson. Hope you're feeling good today." "Never better, Al. A friend of mine often spoke to me about you, Mr. Carson." "Who was that?" "Barney. Jack Barney." "Jack Barney. Why, he worked for me in the broom shop." "Yes, he did, a thrift spot. He often said to me, 'Al, if you ever land in Riverside,' he says, 'be sure you don't forget to give my best to Mr. Carson. Mr. Ed Carson,' he says. He's a good fellow." The officer looked pleased. "Yes, I treated him quite all right," he remarks, continuing on his rounds. "I knew he'd swallow it." The assistant sneers after him. "Always good to get on the right side of them." He adds with a wink, "Barney told me about him all right. Said he's the rottenest sneak in the dump. A swell head. Yep. You see, Mr. Berkman, may I call you Alec? It's shorter. Well, you see, Alec, I make it a point to find things out. It's wise to know the ropes. I'm next to the whole bunch here. That Jimmy McPain, the deputy, he's a regular brute. Killed his man all right. Barney told me all about it. He was doing his bit then. I mean serving his sentence. You see, Alec," he lowers his voice confidentially, "I don't like to use slang. It grows on one, and every fly cop can spot you as a crook. It's necessary in my business to present a fine front and use good English, so I must not get the lingo habit. Well, I was speaking of Barney telling me about the deputy. He killed a con in cold blood. The fellow was Bughouse, D.T., you know, saw snakes. He ran out of his cell one morning, swinging a chair and hollering, 'Murder! Kill 'em!' The deputy was just passing along, and he out with his gat, I mean his revolver, you know, and bangs away. He pumped the poor loony fellow full of holes. He did, the murderer. Killed him dead. Never was tried, either. Warden told the newspapers it was done in self-defense. A damn lie. Sandy knew better. Everybody in the dump knew it was cold-blooded murder, with no provocation at all. It's a regular ring, you see, and that old warden is the biggest grafton of them all. And that sky pilot, too, is an A1 fakir. Did you mean about the kid born here? Before your time? A big scandal. Since then the holy man's got to have a screw with him at Sunday service for the females, and I tell you, he needs watching all right." The whistle terminates the conversation. And of Section 21. Section 22 of Prison Memoirs of an Anarchist. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Mike Botes. Prison Memoirs of an Anarchist by Alexander Berkman. Chapter 15. The Urge of Sex. Sunday night. My new cell on the upper gallery is hot and stuffy. I cannot sleep. Through the bars I gaze upon the Ohio. The full moon hangs above the river, bathing the waters in mellow light. The strains of a sweet lullaby wander through the woods, and the banks are merry with laughter. A girlish cadence rings like a silvery bell, and voices call in the distance. Life is joyous and near, terribly, tantalizingly near. But all is silent and dead around me. For days the feminine voice keeps ringing in my ears. It sounded so youthful and buoyant, so fondly alluring. A beautiful girl, no doubt. What joy to feast my eye on her! I have not beheld a woman for many months. I long to hear the soft accents, feel the tender touch. My mind persistently reverts to the voice on the river, the sweet strain in the woods, and fancy wreaths, sad-toned fugues upon the merry carol, paints vision and image as I pace the floor in agitation. They live, they breathe. I see the slender figure with the swelling bosom, the delicate white throat, the babyish face with large wistful eyes. Why, it is Luba! My blood tingles violently, passionately, as I live over again the rapturous wonder at the first touch of her maiden breast. How temptingly innocent sounded the immodest invitation on the velvety lips, how exquisite the suddenness of it all! We were in New Haven then. One by one we had gathered, till the little New York commune was complete. The girl joined me first, for I felt lonely in the strange city, drudging as a compositor on a country weekly, the evenings cold and cheerless in the midst of a conservative household. But the girl brought light and sunshine, and then came the twin and Mania. Luba remained in New York, but Mania, devoted little soul, yearned for her sister, and presently the three girls worked side by side in the corset factory. All seemed happy in the free atmosphere, and Luba was blooming into beautiful womanhood. There was a vague something about her that now and then roused in me a fond longing, a rapturous desire. Once, it was in New York, a year before, I had experienced a sudden impulse toward her. It seized me unheralded, unaccountably. I had called to try a game of chess with her father, when he informed me that Luba had been ill. She was recovering now, and would be pleased to see me. I sat at the bedside, conversing in low tones, when I noticed the pillows slipping from under the girl's head. Bending over, I involuntarily touched her hair, loosely hanging down the side. The soft, dark chestnut thrilled me, and the next instant I stooped and stealthily pressed the silken waves to my lips. The momentary sense of shame was lost in the feeling of reverence for the girl with the beautiful hair, that bewildered and fascinated me, and a deep yearning suddenly possessed me, as she lay in exquisite disarray, full of grace and beauty. And all the while we talked, My eyes feasted on her ravishing form, and I felt envious of her future lover, and hated the desecration. But when I left her bedside, all traces of desire disappeared, and the inspiration of the moment faded like a vision affrighted by the dawn. Only a transient, vague inquietude remained, as of something unattainable. Then came that unforgettable moment of undreamed bliss. We had just returned from the performance of Tosca, with Sarah Bernhardt in her inimitable role. I had to pass through Luba's room on my way to the attic, in the little house occupied by the commune. She had already retired, but was still awake. I sat down on the edge of the bed, and we talked of the play. She glowed with inspiration of the great tragedienne. Then, somehow, she alluded to the décolleté of the actresses. "I don't mind a fine bust exposed on the stage," I remarked. "But I had a powerful opera glass. Their breasts looked fleshy and flabby. It was disgusting." "Do you think mine nice?" she asked suddenly. For a second I was bewildered, but the question sounded so enchantingly unpremeditated, so innocently eager. "I never Let me see them," I said impulsively. "No, no," she cried, in aroused modesty. I can't. I won't look, Luba. See, I close my eyes. Just a touch." "Oh, I can't. I'm ashamed. Only over the blanket, please, Sasha," she pleaded as my hand softly stole under the covers. She gripped the sheet tightly, and my arm rested on her side. The touch of the firm, round breast thrilled me with passionate ecstasy. In fear of arousing her maidenly resistance, I strove to hide my exultation, while cautiously and tenderly I released the coverlet. "They are very beautiful, Luba," I said, controlling the tremor of my voice. "You like them, really, Sasha?" The large eyes looked lustrous and happy. "They are Greek, dear," and snatching the last covering aside, I kissed her between the breasts. "I'm so glad I came here," she spoke dreamily. "Were you very lonesome in New York?" "It was terrible, Sasha." "You like the change?" "Oh, you silly boy, don't you know?" "What, Luba?" "I wanted you, dear." Her arms twined softly about me. I felt appalled. The girl, my revolutionary plans, flitted through my mind, chilling me with self reproach. The pale hue of the attained cast its shadow across the spell, and I lay cold and quiet on Luba's breast. The coverlet was slipping down, and reaching for it, my hand inadvertently touched her knee. "Sasha, how can you?" she cried in alarm, sitting up with terrified eyes. "I didn't mean to, Luba. How could you think that of me?" I was deeply mortified. My hand relaxed on her breast. We lay in silent embarrassment. "It is getting late, Sasha." She tenderly drew my head to her bosom. "A little while yet, dear." And again the enchantment of the virgin breasts was upon me, and I showered wild kisses on them, and pressed them passionately, madly, till she cried out in pain. "You must go now, dear. Good night, Luba." "Good night, dearest. You haven't kissed me, Sashenka." I felt her detaining lips as I left. In the wakeful hours of the night the urge of sex grows more and more insistent. Scenes from the past live in my thoughts. The cell is peopled with familiar faces. Episodes long dead to memory rise animated before me. They emerge from the darkest chambers of my soul, and move with intense reality, like the portraits of my sires come to life in the dark, fearful nights of my childhood. Pert Masha smiles at me from her window across the street, and a bevy of girls pass me demurely with modestly averted gaze, and then call back saucily in thinly disguised voices. Again I am with my playmates, trailing the schoolgirls on their way to the river, and we chuckle gleefully at their affright and confusion as they discover the eyes glued to the peepholes we had cut in the booth. Inwardly I resent Nadia's bathing in her shirt, and in revenge dive beneath the boards, rising to the surface in the midst of the girls, who run to cover in shame and terror. But I grow indignant at Vainka, who badgers the girls with "tsiba, tsiba, ba," and I soundly thrash Kolya for shouting nasty epithets across the schoolyard at little Nunia, whom I secretly adore. But the note of the later days return again and again, and the scenes of youth recede into their dim frames. Clearer and more frequently appear Sonia and Lyuba, and the little sweetheart of my first months in America. What a goose she was! She would not embrace me because it's a great sin, unless one is married. But how slyly she managed to arrange kissing games at the Sunday gatherings at her home, and always lose to me. She must be quite a woman now, with a husband, children. Quickly she flits by, the recollection even of her name lost in the glow of anarchist emotionalism and the fervent enthusiasm of my Orchard Street days. There flames the light that irradiates the vague longings of my Russian youth, and gives rapt interpretation to obscurely pulsating idealism. It sheds the halo of illuminating justification upon my blindly rebellious spirit, and visualizes my dreams on the sunlit mountains. The sordid misery of my greenhorn days assumes a new aspect. Ah, the wretchedness of those first years in America! And still, Time's woof and warp unroll the tapestry of life in the New World, its joys and heart-throbs. I stand a lone stranger, bewildered by the flurry of Castle Garden, yet strong with hope and courage to carve my fate in freedom. The Czar is far away, and the fear of his hating Cossacks is past. How inspiring is liberty! The very air breathes enthusiasm and strength, and with confident ardor I embrace the new life. I join the ranks of the world's producers, and glory in the full manhood conferred by the dignity of labor. I resent the derision of my adopted country on the part of my family abroad, resent it hotly. I feel wronged by the charge of having disgraced my parents' respected name by turning a low, dirty working man. I combat their snobbishness vehemently, and revenge the indignity to labor by challenging comparison between the old and the new world. Behold the glory of liberty and prosperity, the handiwork of a nation that honors labor. The loom of time keeps weaving. Lone and friendless, I struggle in the new land. Life in the tenements is sordid, the fate of the worker dreary. There is no dignity of labor. Sweatshop bread is bitter. Oppression guards the golden promise, and servile brutality is the only earnest of success. Then, like a clarion note in the desert, sounds the call of the ideal. Strong and rousing rolls the battle cry of revolution. Like a flash in the night, it illumines my groping. My life becomes full of new meaning and interest, translated into the struggle of a world's emancipation. Fedia joins me, and together we are absorbed in the music of the new humanity. It is all far, far, yet every detail is sharply etched upon my memory. Swiftly pass before me the years of complete consecration to the movement, the self-imposed poverty and sacrifices, the feverish tide of agitation in the wake of the Chicago martyrdom, the evenings of spirited debate, the nights of diligent study, and over all looms the Fridays, in the little dingy hall in the Ghetto, where the handful of Russian refugees gather, where bold imprecations are thundered against the tyranny and injustice of the existing, and winged words prophesy the near approach of a glorious dawn. Beshawled women and men, long coated and piously bearded, steal into the hall after synagogue prayers, and listen with wondering eyes, vainly striving to grasp the strange Jewish, so perplexedly interspersed with the alien words of the new Evangel. How our hearts rejoice as, with exaggerated deference, we eagerly encourage the diffident questioner. Do you really mean, may the good Lord forgive me, there is no one in heaven above? Late in the evening the meeting resolves into small groups, heatedly contending over the speaker's utterances, the select circle finally adjourning to the corner. The obscure little tea room resounds with the joust of learning and wit. Fascinating is the feast of reason, impassioned the flow of soul, as the passage at arms grows more heated with the advance of the night. The alert-eyed host diplomatically pacifies the belligerent factions. Gentlemen, gentlemen, shh! The police station is just across the street. There is a lull in the combat. The angry opponents frown at each other. And in the interim the Austrian student in his mellow voice begins an interminable story of personal reminiscence, apropos of nothing and starting nowhere, but intensely absorbing. With sparkling eyes he holds us spellbound, relating the wonderful journey taking us through the Nevsky in St. Petersburg, thence to the Caucasus, to engage in the blood feuds of the Cherkessy, or enmeshed in a perilous flirtation with an Albanian beauty in a Moslem harem, he descants on the philosophy of Mohammed, imperceptibly shifting the scene to the Nile to hunt the hippopotamus, and suddenly interrupting the amazing adventures by introducing an acquaintance of the evening. My excellent friend, the coming great Italian virtuoso from Odessa, gentlemen. He will entertain us with an aria from Trovatore. But the circle is not in a musical mood. Someone challenges the student's familiarity with the Moslem philosophy, and the twin hints at the gossiped intimacy of the Austrian with Christian missionaries. There are protestations and loud clamour for an explanation. The student smilingly assents, and presently he is launched upon the Chinese Sea, in the midst of a strange caravan, trading tea at Yakhta, and aiding a political to escape to Vladivostok. The night pales before the waking sun, the twin yawns, and I am drowsy with "Coffee, want coffee? Hey, get up there! Didn't you hear the bell?" End of section 22.